Be a killer from a full-time hunter. Chapter 101-120. Chapter 101 _ The sky is getting dark. At some point in the night dark clouds converge on the Berzakova Islands. The village that should have been full of cooking smoke was now silent. A figure flashed quickly in the village, leaving only a few huts with open doors. Dash 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 dash. Wow tilde. A pile of food spilled from the chest of the puppet summoned by Edmund. Edmund, the skinny hunter. According to his introduction, his ability is the puppet master's rage. Dolls for various purposes can be made by reciting. The doll can act according to the set instructions, or it can be controlled by the doll master. The doll that pours out the food is a doll specially used for transportation. As for why his ability has such a suffix after it, everyone doesn't quite understand. However, it is impolite to inquire about the abilities of others at will. No one specifically asked. Simple dinner. Everyone gathered around a fire, thinking about the next course of action. If you want me to say, I can't continue to wait for 14 years. There are 1.8 million people living in the Berzakova Islands. The female insects devour them all. I don't know how many Zerg people can be produced. Biscuit and wolf clash. Only 10,000 Zerg came to attack us today. It can be seen that their current strength is not particularly exaggerated. When the Zerg continues to hatch in the future, we will really be in the biggest dilemma. So we should get rid of them completely before they expand. Bishiji, who experienced the Zerg crusade 30 years ago, clearly understands the terrifying reproductive ability of the Zerg. What's more, there are 16 female worms this time. More exaggerated than a female worm 30 years ago. Since this is the reason, we should not touch those Zerg and increase their hatred for us, so that the possibility of chasing us will be slightly reduced. When we meet with the 12 earthly branches, we will go directly to the location of the mother insect and the insect emperor, and destroy them in one fell swoop. Wolf is also a professional hunter. He can also grasp the severity of the matter, he just chose a relatively less dangerous plan. The two have different viewpoints, and the atmosphere between the teams begins to become subtle. If disagreements escalate, the team may be split. This is what no one wants to see. But these two views are already the best solution at present. Disagreements have arisen, and cracks have appeared in the originally strong team relationship. Just when the two of them were about to decide who to choose, Morgan, who was silent on the side, suddenly widened his eyes. Journey to the West. I found the trail of the journey to the west. Moment. All eyes were on him, waiting for his detailed description of the situation. Yes, but... However, after attracting everyone's attention, he became submissive again. What's the matter? Tell me quickly, don't do it. As a power-enhancing person, Jillian is also a quick-tempered person. Seeing Morgan hesitating, his heart was extremely unhappy. Senior Morgan, first tell me what happened to Senior Westward Journey, we are here to judge. Boris is quite calm, here to ease the atmosphere in the middle. Journey to the West, he was chased and killed by countless Zerg, he broke an arm, and was about to be caught up by Zerg. His voice was slow, and his tone was filled with sadness. Where is Journey to the West at this time? Let's see if we can go to support. Hearing that Journey to the West was in such a dangerous situation, several other hunters asked him where he was. Ready to go to the rescue. It's too late. On the other side of the archipelago, if you go at full speed, it will take at least half an hour. Unless. When Morgan said this, his eyes couldn't help but turn to the side. Looking at Yi, who was bored watching a play. Now the only one with ultra-long-range mobility is Yi. The eyes of others followed Morgan. Okay, give me the address, I don't mind saving his life. Feeling the expectations of everyone, especially by Siji, Yi did not refuse. When the enemy's strength is strong, reducing the loss of one's own combat power is to increase the chance of winning the next battle by 1 point. Seeing Yi Yi's agreement, Morgan quickly reported the direction of the journey to the west to Yi Yi. Out of the cave. The magic spear appeared in Yi Yi's hand, and instantly cut a cross in the air. The space is forcibly broken. Yi Yi walked towards the crack. The other side. Journey to the west fled around in embarrassment, with wounds all over his body, completely inconsistent with the name he carried. In order to attract the attention of the Zerg, he had to throw the broken arm that he had held in his arms before. Although he may become a one-armed man in the future, he does not regret his choice. An arm in exchange for a chance to live. What's more, in this world where mines are rampant, there will always be a way to restore the ability of the stump. Jealous. Sudden. A sharp cry came from beside him, attracting the attention of Journey to the west. Damn, why is this bastard still chasing? The circle was centered on the westward journey and expanded outwards for a moment. Let him know the owner of the voice. A special Zerg about 6 meters high. While huge in size, the mutant Zerg has improved speed, strength, and arm sharpness in an all-round way. Westward arm. It was cut off when it attacked. And this mutant Zerg touched his side at some point. Despair, unimaginable despair came to my mind. This is not the first time he has come into contact with the creatures of the Dark Continent. But it was the first time I was so desperate. Perhaps, the ending was already doomed when the order was received. His eyes widened subconsciously. At this time, it was very difficult for him to even escape, let alone avoid this sudden attack. A sharp curved foot knife slashed at his head. A strange male voice came. Shoot him, sharpshooter. A beam of light flashed in the dark night. Chapter 102 Yi Yi came out of the black cavity. The magic spear instantly appeared in his hand, aiming at the huge Zerg body. Reiki condensed in the hand. Shoot him, the gun. In an instant. Across the limit of distance, a knife pierced the head of the Zerg. The arm was gently pulled down, and the sharp blade cut the huge body in two. The sluggish eyes of Journey to the west also recovered. A few jumps, dodged from the spot and continued to escape. While escaping, he did not forget to look at the silhouette that suddenly appeared in the air. Is it support? Although he didn't understand Yi Yi's identity, judging from the fact that he saved himself at a critical moment, the possibility of being an allied army was very high. The direction of escape changed slightly. Run towards the night. Mid-air. Yi Yi looked at the massive Zerg, and his icy face changed. After trying, although the Zerg could not provide unlock progress for the inheritance of the characters, the soul in it was enough for Benyu to absorb it. The number is indeed quite large. No time wasted. Yi Yi quickly flew towards the westward journey. The distance between the two was fleeting under Yi Yi's flight. Ignoring the swarm of insects who wanted to greet him in a friendly manner, Yi Yi grabbed Zayu's raised arm and quickly flew into the air again. I'm the Association Hunter. A word can relax the spirit of Journey to the West a lot. The gun pierces the space. The black cavity was opened again, but this time, before entering the black cavity, Yi Yi didn't mind leaving a gift for the swarm below. Reiatsu quickly condensed on his body. The exaggerated Reiatsu is as vast and boundless as the endless sea. This kind of terrifying spiritual pressure far exceeds that of ordinary captain-level characters. Just the surge of the spiritual pressure caused gusts of wind to surround Yiki's body. The sharp wind blade pierced the skin of Journey to the West. This terrifying look shocked him. How is it possible? Such exaggerated thoughts, such a natural sense of suppression. Under the oppression of Yi yelling pressure, the thoughts in Zayu seemed to be shaking constantly. Matter how he used, wrangle, he couldn't calm down the trembling thoughts on his body. Monster, when did such a monster appear in the association? As one of the 12 earthly branches in the association, he thought he knew the information of the association relatively well, but this was the first time he had met such a terrifying monster. Yi didn't know the shock of Journey to the West in his hands. Just raise your right hand. Aiming the sharp gun at the roaring swarm below. The monotonous creature, the swarm, has a more obvious perception of life and death. From this deep sense of oppression, they felt a strong breath of death. Under the stimulation of instinct, he roared up to the sky. It seems that he wants to make his last cry in this world. Next moment, the short knife in his hand became the center of the gathering of spiritual pressure. The gust of wind moved from around Yi to this short knife. Dissolution. A cold voice came from Yi's mouth. It made the westward journey beside him feel the endless cold. God-killing gun no treading Leonblade. The voice hasn't fallen. A roar was heard beside Journey to the West. An indescribable terrifying power emerged from this dagger. The darkness of the night became brighter at this moment. A beam of white light sprinkled on the ground like a shooting star. This sudden white light made Xiyu close his eyes subconsciously. Boom tilde tilde. The whole field disappeared. The attack of 500 times the speed of sound, how many times Yi used it at this moment, even he can't remember. The purple-black sea waters the land. The Zerg, which was like the ocean just a moment ago, has been reduced to debris. Nearly 100,000 Zerg were wiped out at this moment. Che, is Reiatsu enough? System panel. Host, Night 1. World, full-time hunter. Number of inheritances, 1. Inherited figure, Ichimaru Jin. Unlock progress, 57.3%. Collapse Jade unlock progress, %. Zanpakuto, Spear dissolution. Spiritual pressure, 10,1500. Ability to master. Spirit body unlocked. Unlocking requires the completion of preconditions. Slash, the fighting method of the god of death using a knife, sword. White strike, the body art of the god of death. Shunpo, Reaper's high-speed movement skills. Ghost Road, the advanced spell used by the god of death to fight, divided into breaking the way and binding the way. Reiatsu perception, Shinigami's ability to sense the surroundings using Reiatsu. Haichang, a teleportation ability that breaks space with Reiatsu. The next ability to unlock, need to unlock progress 100%. The moment of using the dissolution, Yi's spiritual pressure reached nearly 1,026,865,268 points, but even if the consumption of the magic gun was low, after solving nearly 100,000 Zerg, the spiritual pressure would be exhausted. The second time. This is the second time Yoichi has nearly exhausted his Reiatsu. The result, however, was satisfactory to Yi. Feeling the exhausted spiritual pressure in his body, Yi turned around and walked towards the inside of the black cavity. 10 o'clock spiritual pressure. It was enough to pave the way back to Bisji and the others at night. Just before entering, Yi remembered something. The left hand turned slightly, and Bengyu appeared in his hand. At this time, he was already standing high in the sky, so he didn't have to throw Bengyu from his hand. The moment when the collapsed jade appeared, endless rays of light converged towards it. At the same time, the unlocking progress of Bengyu is also constantly rising. 0.2%, 0.3%, 29.8%, 29.9%, 30%. Reaching 30%, it does not continue to change, but an inexplicable change has occurred. Journey to the West opened his eyes at this moment. Good luck, Zhao. I do not know when the figure has entered that mysterious black space. The whole body was shrouded in darkness. The dark and cold breath made him feel uncomfortable again. We're going there now. After getting out of danger, Journey to the West gradually calmed down and began to ask him for information about Yi. The stronghold of the first batch of operatives. Don't move, I am not responsible for falling. The cold voice made Journey to the West tremble. Recall what you just went through. At this moment, he was a little curious about what happened to the swarms that were chasing him just now. Turn around and look behind you. That shattered crack is about to close. But there was only one crack left, but it was enough for him to see everything. His eyes widened instantly, blood shot all over his pupils. How is this possible? A hoarse voice filled the black cavity. Points. Chapter 103 _ Diffuse night. It's time to spread. The Brzykova Islands are deadly quiet. In this archipelago, the only human beings that survived were only association hunters from the outside world. In the cave where Bishiji and others are hiding, several people anxiously waited for Yi-Yi's return. While waiting, Morgan told everyone about the dangerous situation in Journey to the West. Senior westward journey. What happened? How could his arm? Boris, the young hunter. Listening to what Morgan said about the current situation of Journey to the West, his expression became serious. Journey to the West, as one of the 12 earthly branches. His strength is undoubtedly the strongest among the group of people in the cave. But even he has become such a miserable appearance, which is enough to see the crisis of this crusade. Morgan is not clear about what happened before Journey to the West. After all, by the time his Nyan-beast cat found Journey to the West, he had already broken his arm. But the next moment, his face was full of shock. I don't know, wait, Yi-Yi has already arrived at Zayu's side. Great, Yi-Yi successfully rescued Zayu. Wait, what happened? Morgan couldn't believe what he saw. I'm dreaming, I must be dreaming, it's impossible to have such a terrifying ability. Constantly muttering. This look of him made it a little difficult for everyone else present to understand. What they said in their mouths left them completely confused. Morgan, you old man, don't be a fool, just say what happened. The impatient Jillian couldn't stand Morgan's old problem of being stuck at this critical moment. A slap on his shoulder. Morgan was slapped by the slap and slowly recovered. I saw Yi-Yi. He killed 100,000 Zerg instantly with a knife. It's really terrifying. The eyes were blurred. Still can't seem to accept this reality. What? You can't kill 100,000 Zerg with a knife? Are you kidding me? You must have read it wrong. Almost no one believed what Morgan said. Wolf even started mocking directly. Even if everyone is a member of each other's Zerg crusade, it is false news, and no one believes it. Only Siji and Jeremy were convinced that Yi-Yi could kill 100,000 Zerg instantly. Visuki knew that Yaiki could materialize a magic spear. You can use the sharp gun to quickly kill the enemy. When I was in Kaimei continent, it was the zombies. Although the number this time is a bit exaggerated, it seems understandable when he thinks of his so-called thoughts eroded by the Dark Sonata. Jeremy saw with his own eyes the scene where he used a sharp gun overnight. So there is no doubt about that. It may be that after the death of the Zerg, a hallucinogenic substance is released from the body's blood, causing Mr. Morgan to experience hallucinations. Insect hunter Leopold. With his years of research on insects, he came up with a result that he thought was very likely. Yes, is that so? Maybe I'm hallucinating. Seeing that Yi-Yi and Journey to the West succeeded in retreating, the cat's chanting beast was lifted. So hearing the explanation from insect hunter Leopold, Morgan seemed to believe it. For him, such a terrifying strength seems to be only a hallucination of himself. Step tilde step tilde step tilde. Just when he wanted to say something, a sound of footsteps came in from outside the cave. Everyone looked towards the entrance of the cave, only to see Yi-Yi leading westward Journey, and the two walked towards the cave. Escaping from the pursuit, the spirit of Journey to the West eased a little. Compared to when Yi-Yi saw him for the first time, he felt a lot of energy. Just because of the lack of cheating, he lost too much blood in his body and his body was a little weak. The first batch of advance personnel, there are only these people, it is too few, and the number is not enough. Looking at the few people in the cave, westward Journey's face was a little ugly. There was no scruples about the hunter present, and he directly expressed his thoughts. As a sharp-tongued powerhouse, this seems to be the result of his mercy. Senior westward journey, what happened to you? Even a person with such a powerful ability could hardly escape. The young hunter didn't care about the tone of Journey to the West. The strong always have special rights. Yes, there are the other 12 earthly branches, we need these now. Bishiji didn't only pay attention to Journey to the West, but also remembered Yin, Kansai and Chen, Podobai Gigant. If something happened to the two of them, this crusade might require more personnel to participate. Cut. Those two bastards should be fine. Hearing the two people's inquiries, Zayu's expression changed slightly. Dodging the young hunter's question, he instead answered Bisuki's question. As soon as we were notified by the association, we rushed here and found the hiding place of the female insects when we converged. After a resolution vote, we decided to solve these female worms directly. The plan went very well. Before we were discovered by the female worms, we touched them and made a sneak attack while they were eating. Speaking of which, Journey to the West's face was a little unnatural. The hunters present are not simple characters. What's the matter? What happened? Jillian looked at the unnatural look on his face and subconsciously questioned him. At this moment, she forgot about the 12 earthly branches and was only interested in the outcome of the matter. Cut. After killing 10 female worms, those worm eggs hatched suddenly and couldn't be killed at all. In order to preserve our vitality, we chose to retreat. Journey to the West had to tell the truth. When retreating, in order to reduce the number of pursuits, we retreated in 3 ways. The voice just fell. Yi Yi suddenly frowned. In his perception, the real sea of insects struck. These things will be discussed later. A large swarm of insects is surrounded by a kilometer away. The number is over 1 million. The voice fell, and everyone present turned pale. Chapter 104 Feel the swarms of insects that are rapidly gathering here. Yi Yi's face became ugly. Because the spiritual pressure is exhausted, and there are people stationed here. I thought that there would be no swarms touching my side, and only limited the perception range to about 1 kilometer. But now the rushing Zerg hit him deeply in the face. And evolved, or a special kind. The insect swarm, which was 1 kilometer away at the last moment, had already arrived in front of everyone in just 10 seconds. Such a terrifying speed can be many times faster than the previous batch of 10,000 level insect swarms. When the other hunters heard the number of nearly 1 million insect swarms, their faces suddenly turned pale. After seeing the horror of the perception ability of the knight, they naturally would not doubt it again, but such a terrifying amount overwhelmed their mood to the bottom in an instant. 1 million level insect swarm cannot be solved by 10 people present. Even if Nitro came, I was afraid that he would be consumed by the millions of swarms. Damn, didn't you mean the Berzakova Islands that just landed this morning? Why is that? Bishiji's face was the palest. As a survivor of the crusade 30 years ago, she naturally understands the horror of the million-scale insect swarm. Retreat, you must retreat immediately. Morgan, do you know of other places where you can hide? You must retreat from here, or we will all be buried in the belly of the worm. An anxious tone. Thinking of the terrifying million-level insect swarm, her legs seemed to tremble. Aware of the seriousness of the matter, everyone didn't care to clean up, and ran straight to the outside of the cave with Yi Yi. It's just that everyone just walked out of the cave entrance. A dense sea of insects has surrounded this place. Damn, it's too late. The cave that was originally used as a stronghold has now become a fatal factor for everyone. The cave used for the exit was blocked, and it could only be defended here. But the million-level insect sea outside is not something that can be defended. Yi Yi, can you still use the space transfer ability now? Looking at the insect pests gradually climbing into the cave, Bishiji's mood calmed down. He asked Yaiki, who didn't know when to come to him. Under her perception, Yi Yi's breath at this time has weakened to the extreme. Guess it should be caused by the excessive consumption that killed 100,000 insect seas. The others heard Bishiji's question and set their eyes on Yaiki. If everyone has a chance to survive, it is entirely up to Yi at this moment. Ignore the other hunters. Yi felt the spiritual pressure of his body, and it only recovered to 1300, which was only enough to walk in the black cavity for 3 minutes. For this, he did not hide it and said it directly. Can only be used for the last time, the location cannot be guaranteed. It takes time to open the black cavity, it takes time to enter the black cavity, and it also takes time to close the black cavity. Hearing that it was still usable, Bisuki's eyes flickered. Enough. The voice fell, and Bishiji's figure swelled again, and actively rushed towards the Zerg trying to enter the hole. The figure of Juju was full of domineering at this moment. Take everyone away, I'm blocking it here. Let several other hunters look at it, before the heart unconsciously gave birth to shame. In the process of using the Haichang twice, BCG has already figured out the drawbacks of the long-distance space movement ability of the Haichang. She knew that if no one stopped her, everyone would be buried here. Perhaps when she came to this archipelago, she had already made a decision in her heart. Looking at the figure running towards the entrance of the cave, Yi's eyes couldn't help flashing with expressive feelings. Next moment, a cold chant came from Yi's mouth. Heaven's favored man, the Iron City Wall, the dragon walks, the lion roars, the tiger roars, the wolf rushes, cut off the heaven and the earth before it collapses. The 81 boundaries, breaking the space. Accompanied by the sound of stones squeezing in the cave. A huge transparent defensive wall appeared at the entrance of the hole, blocking all the Zerg that were about to pour in. The figure of Bishiji who was still running slowly stopped. The body trembled slightly. Peng's face turned red. She forgot that her disciple and grandson had many strange abilities. Among them, the ability to block the entrance of the hole does not seem to be a big problem. Bishiki, go. Feeling the number of spiritual pressures in his body, Yi knew that he had no time to waste. Flowers. The magic spear quickly emerged in his hand, piercing the space in front of him. A black crack appeared in front of everyone. The first to enter the black cavity, use the spiritual pressure to pave the way under your feet. In order to save the use of Reiatsu, the route is controlled to a level that is only enough for a single person to walk. As long as Bishiji and others follow his pace, they will not fall into the broken world. As a famous hunter entered the black cavity, the Zerg who came in from the distant view of the hole also became more and more violent. Disregarding the safety of their lives, they slammed into the transparent defensive wall one by one. 1, 2, 6, 7. Under the fatal impact, the transparent defensive wall quickly became fragmented. In the end, when Bisji's figure was about to enter the black cavity. 0. The transparent defensive wall was completely shattered. Countless Zerg rushed into the cave. A special Zerg with a multi-legged structure, its running speed far exceeds the speed of Bishiji. The gap between the two is about to be caught up. Jillian, who was walking in front of Bisigi, stretched half of her body out of the black cavity and pulled Bisigi into the black cavity. Next moment, the black cavity began to slowly close. But a few Zerg rushed into the black cavity during the few seconds of slowly closing. Just as Jillian and Bisji were about to counterattack to solve the single Zerg, they suddenly fell from the Reiatsu road. It fell towards the bottomless darkness below. Seeing this scene, the two looked at each other for a moment. An idea suddenly popped into my mind. It's a waste of time to discuss here. They all knew that Yi's mind was about to run out, and this was not the time for discussion. Everyone followed Yi's figure and walked towards the distance. In the dark and cold broken world, there was a whimper. P.S. The above content is full. This chapter is dedicated to the reward of the AB 10268652668 boss and Kui Gengjang. The content of Kui Zheng has actually reached 6K, but I update it every day at 8K. This Kui Zheng is equivalent to my daily update, but I can't let the bosses rush the update in vain. I have added another chapter by virtue of the lunch break. Even. Thank you all so much for subscribing, everyone. Sun. Chapter 105 _ Calm sea, blown by a breeze. A terrifying crack appeared in the air. Several figures ran out of it. With bursts of water splashing, everyone fell into the ocean. Although everyone was embarrassed, the excitement of escaping from death made them excited. Only night. Almost fainting now. The Reiatsu had already been used up, and before using the black cavity, he used another shot to block the hole. Makes his Reiatsu directly into single digits. Paving the way with spiritual pressure in the black cavity will exhaust all spiritual pressure. In the end, when he opened the black cavity, he forced the last trace of his thoughts into spiritual pressure before opening it. Almost, everyone will be enclosed in a black cavity and will never be able to leave. Break away from success. 140 spiritual pressure is exhausted, and mental energy is exhausted. The exhaustion completely enveloped Yi, and he climbed up the coast with difficulty, and his consciousness became blurred. Fine. Bishiji's figure appeared beside him before his consciousness disappeared. A cruise ship marked by the Hunters Association, sailing in the ocean. When Yi regained consciousness, several hours had passed. When I wake up, I find that I have left the land. In a few hours of coma, the spiritual pressure on his body has recovered nearly half. Walking out of the room full of disinfectant scent, Yi groped and walked towards the deck. There were fluctuations from Bishiji and others. Come to the splint. I found Bisky, who was leaning on the armrest of the cruise ship, looking at the Bezikova Islands shrouded in the haze in the distance, wondering what she was thinking. You're awake, Yi. Feeling Yaiki's breath, Bishiji turned around. There was a sad expression on his face. Who died? Looking at this appearance, Yi understood what happened. Journey to the West, Leopold, Jeremy, and Morgan. Speaking of the first three names, Bisiji's tone did not fluctuate at all. Only when talking about Morgan, his tone was low. Really, I see. For Morgan. Yi was not familiar with it, only he knew that he could use the cat-chanting beast. But for Bisiji, it is an old friend who has known each other for decades. Saddened by his death, it's not surprising. Bisiji, talking to herself about what happened after fainting in the night. 10 minutes later. Yi understands what happened in these few hours. To put it simply, it is through the proposal of Journey to the West, to find the scattered, Yin, Kansai and, Chen, Kodo by Kigant. According to the directions provided by Journey to the West, using Morgan's ability, it is not difficult to find the two. In just an hour, the two scattered people were found. After a successful merge. After negotiation, it was decided to go to the cruise ship where, Chen, Porto by Gigant came to recuperate. But when everyone rushed to the beach, they encountered a 10,000 level insect swarm. Although the 10,000 swarms were not the opponents of the crowd, the millions of swarms that followed had crushed the crowd. When escaping, westward journey, Leopold, Jeremy, and Morgan were besieged and died tragically. The crusade plan is suspended. This is no longer a problem that we can solve. The association will send more personnel to support. Looking at Yaiki, Bishiji's tone was full of determination. It's just that she didn't realize that Yi's face became even more ugly. I guess it's too late. Walking to Bisuki's side, Yaiki unilaterally senses his own Reiatsu perception towards the front. The original limit of 5 kilometers of perception range was forcibly stretched to 10 kilometers. The Zerg don't seem to want to stay in Berzikova anymore. In Yi's perception, countless Zerg were surging, as if they wanted to enter the sea to prey, but because they had no ability to survive under the sea, they could only circle around the sea incompetently. Hearing Yi's prompt, Bishiji turned to look at the Brzykova Islands while her expression changed drastically. Next moment, the body could not stop backing away. Food. The Brzykova Islands don't have enough food for the Zerg to thrive. If they don't settle here, the whole world will. Bishiji remembered that the terrifying appetite and reproductive ability of the Zerg are related to each other. In order to satisfy their own appetite, evolution has become the only choice for the Zerg. Although it is not yet possible to go to sea, Bishiji and Yi believe that a new Zerg will be born in a few days. A Zerg with free access to the ocean. No, I'm going to tell Chen and Yin this news now. And the old man. Think of a terrifying future. Bishiji is not in the mood to continue to be saddened by the death of her friend. The figure quickly went away to find the two surviving 12 earthly branches. Quite a while. The left hand turned slightly, and Bengyu appeared in Yi's hand. Compared with the first time I saw it, its blue-black light at this time was clearer and more translucent. Wish, your wish. Vaguely, Yi seemed to hear something. Put Bengyu in front of him, and observed it carefully. It seems to be the sound coming from here. But apart from the more obvious light, there seems to be no other changes. Helpless, the collapsed jade was taken back into the system. Looking at the Brzykova Islands in the distance, he murmured consciously at night. Millions of Zerg, it's terrifying. Even he couldn't survive under such a terrifying swarm, which made Yi think of the ants in the future. Able to the only thing that can destroy it is a weapon of the level of a nuclear bomb. Poor man's Rose. A human technology capable of killing the mighty Ant King. Half an hour later, Nitro was picked up by Yoichi using a black voice to confirm the danger of the matter. Use this to decide whether to use a certain weapon. This amount is really unexpected. The ever-expanding number of Zerg on the archipelago made Nitro seem to have made a decision in his heart. Yi-Jong tilde this time the old man is going to trouble you to run with me. The sound is not as fun as it used to be. I accepted the commission and it will be done naturally. Although I don't think that humanity will perish, but since he has accepted the commission, Yaiki will naturally ensure that the commission is completed. Chapter 106_ Hunter Guild Headquarters. After confirming the thoughts in his heart, Nitro asked Yi to use his abilities to bring back all the abilities who went to the Brzykova Islands back to the Hunters Association. He himself is going to perform a simple operation. Looking at Nitro walking into the operating room, Yi didn't expect that his previous thoughts would come true. Poor man's Rose. Realizing that the society might not be able to deal with the Zerg on the Brzykova Islands, Nitro chose to do the same as the future. The poor man's Rose is surgically buried in his own flesh. If this operation fails, he will choose to activate the bomb in his body. Yi also took this opportunity to use Nitro's authority to get two poor man's Roses. This kind of nuclear bomb, when he first came to this world, has already started to obtain it, but unfortunately it has been almost 2 years, and there has been no way to obtain it. This kind of bomb seems to be strictly controlled by the V5 organization, and even the killer organization where Yi belongs has no way to obtain it. Step tilde step tilde step tilde. A sound of footsteps came from a distance. Yi turned around to look, and a figure that surprised him appeared in front of him. Cheeto Yorkshire _. Looking at this girl dressed like a green dog, I recalled a lot of information about her in my heart. Yi, finally let me catch you. He looked at the imposing woman in front of him. Yi felt guilty. After completing the task of going to Meteor Street to capture the blood vine, Yi did not hand over the entrusted blood vine he obtained to his employer, Cheeto Yorkshire. I know from beating the enemy, you finally got the blood vine, but you never gave me the blood vine. What about your integrity as a professional killer? Cheeto Yorkshire walked to Yi. He didn't care about the difference between men and women, and kept poking Yi's chest with his gloves with dog paw prints. No one knew how anxiously she was waiting for the result of the blood vine competition. The once-in-a-century blood vine, if the killer she hired at a high price did not acquire it, she would recognize it. But after learning from the haka she hired to beat the enemy that it was her other hire who captured the blood vine, she was so happy that she wanted to explode on the spot. He has been waiting for Yi to bring the blood vine that appeared many times in his dreams to himself. 5 days have passed, and the night has not come, I miss him. 10 days have passed, and the night has not come, I miss him. Half a month has passed, but the night has not come, and I want to kill him. This time, she heard that the president of the association had entered the operating room. As a professional doctor in the association, she came to see it specially, but she saw the man she was thinking about every night. The long-cherished thoughts finally broke out at this moment. Ignoring the strange gazes of the people around him, he came directly to Yi's side and kept poking his chest with his fingers. He didn't notice at all the look in the eyes of his colleagues around him. And Yi didn't seem to refute at all, like a scumbag who was irresponsible and ran away when he was done. 10 minutes later. Yi had already explained the reason why he didn't give the blood vine to her, but Cheeto Yorkshire was still chattering. Have no choice. He could only silently endure a wave of mental attacks. After all, this time it was indeed his own fault, and he was caught by the employer. Ding tilde tilde. With a sound. The lights in the operating room went out, and Nitro walked out of it. His steady aura didn't look like he had just completed an operation. When Cheeto Yorkshire saw Nitro, it seemed that he remembered the main purpose of his visit this time. Glancing at Yi angrily, he greeted him in the direction of Nitro. She didn't know how many people were eager to talk to her, but she ignored them. But this time he took the initiative to speak to Yi, but he looked like he was being slaughtered. You, really taking her Cheeto Yorkshire for a baby, don't you? Next. It was because the two of them didn't know what to talk about, and Yi didn't have the heart to ask. He closed his eyes and meditated. After depleting his spiritual pressure in the Berzakova Islands, he found that the spiritual pressure in his body was slowly increasing. Now it has increased from 1500 points to 1553 points. This gave him a way to continue to become stronger in a short period of time. After all, the next stage of unlocking the inheritance of characters needs to reach 100%. Half an hour later, Netero's conversation with Cheeto Yorkshire ends. And left a few envelopes for Cheeto Yorkshire to keep. Then, the association will get rid of you in Parison temporarily. I hope to meet you again, Shao Kijua tilde. After Nitro finished speaking, he walked towards Yi. The two are again at the top of the association. A group of people are already waiting here. It's a pity that the only people who went to the Berzakova Islands this time were Yi and Nitro. Under the uncontrolled reproduction of the swarm, the Berzakova Islands have become a restricted area for life. Before Nitro entered the operating room, it was wiped off the world map. Old man, Yi, come back alive. Bai Siji's figure is a little haggard. The changes in the past 2 days are too fast, making her summer unbearable. Cheeto Yorkshire looked at Yi angrily from a distance. After all, she still did not take the blood vine from Yi. Not every night. She thought that maybe Yiki and Nitro could use the blood vine in the operation to the Berzakova Islands. Will give love to lend Yi. Let Yi successfully return, and handed over the blood vine to her hands. Gun in hand. A cross cut in the void. A space crack appeared in front of the two of them, and the familiar dark and cold aura made everyone tremble. Even though I have seen it several times in just 2 days, I still cannot get used to such darkness. Nitro turned back again and glanced at the group of backs behind him. Ho tilde ho tilde ho tilde ho tilde then, the old man will take a step first, goodbye, everyone. The voice falls. He followed Yi into the black cavity. When the crack closed, something was vaguely heard. Reiatsu paved the way, and the two walked slowly in the dark environment. If I die, remember to run away. Yichi-chan tilde. Nitro's voice was somewhat ethereal. No, you won't die this time, I said. Yi-Yi's icy voice sounded in the black cavity. Chapter 107 _ Pazikova Islands. The light blew through the lonely darkness. The sun shines on every corner of the archipelago. It's just the inexplicable roar that comes from time to time, making this place full of mystery and panic. 1,000 meters above the archipelago. A crack suddenly appeared in the air, and from the appearance, it seemed to be forcibly broken by someone. Two figures came out of this crack. One old, one young. The old age is unknown, with gray hair and long flowing earlobes. The young man was dressed in black, with long silver hair draped behind him, giving him a mysterious feeling. The attention of the two was directly on the archipelago below. 10 female worms during the first raid. When preparing to raid the 11th, the Zerg that hatched around were forcibly hatched successfully and surrounded them. There are only 6 female worms left. I'll leave this to you, Yi-Yi. Nitro put his hand in front of him. Looking at the Zerg that fills the sea like a sea below, I already have a plan in my heart. Insect King, leave it to me to handle it alone. If I don't get rid of the Insect King, I'll trouble you to retreat. Yi-Yi didn't answer, just nodded silently. Then let the battle begin. Before they came, the two had already analyzed the only way to solve this disaster. It is to bypass the huge swarm and conduct a beheading operation. The female worm and the worm king who control the swarm will be resolved, and the remaining swarm will be no threat. The voice falls. The figures of the two quickly fell in the direction of the Berzikova Islands. At the same time, a golden light condensed on Nitro's body. Hands together. At the same time as he fell, he began to pray. The benevolent Avalokitesvera once again appeared behind Nitro, but it seemed to have a little more meaning than when he first met him. 1,000 meters is not very high. The two came to the archipelago in just 10 seconds. Accompanied by 2 roars and vibrations. Yi-Yi and Nitro began to act separately. The location of the female insect and the Insect King was found by the description of the 12 earthly branches and satellites as early as the Hunter Association. When the two jumped from the sky, they were also heading towards their goal. Fortunately, the Zerg at this time did not evolve a special breed for air combat. Let the two plan to be carried out smoothly. The huge golden body of Guanyin has already found its goal at the moment of being single. 100-style Avalokitesvera 3. A golden palm instantly twisted the Zerg protecting the Zerg Emperor into slag. GG tilde. There was a desperate cry, and there was no response. The position of the Insect King made Nitro's heart tremble at this time. An object similar to a cicada chrysalis appeared in the place where the Insect King was located, and amazing thoughts emerged from it. It's just that it hasn't hatched yet, and the amount of thought is already several times his. Near the cicada chrysalis, was a piece of clothing that made him feel familiar. Journey to the West, Morgan, Jeremy, Leopold. Looking at the clothes, Nitro instantly remembered the 4 people who died in the association. An ominous foreboding came to mind. Looking at the chrysalis that jumped from time to time, Nitro subconsciously didn't want it to be born. 100-style Avalokitesvera 99th style. He almost unleashed his strongest blow directly. The intuition in his heart let him know that he only had one chance to attack. If it can't be solved here, he will unleash a demon capable of destroying the world. Moment. Countless golden palms waved towards the chrysalis under the control of Nitro. The other side. Night tasks are easier. At the moment of landing, the black top hat must have appeared on the top of his head. The corners of his mouth rose slightly. Killer's action time, start. An invisible field, centered on Yi-Yi, spreads out to 5 kilometers in an instant. Mindfulness and spiritual pressure. Innately cannot be compared. If you really want to say, Reiatsu is a higher level ability to use. When he was learning to read, Yi-Yi's circle area expanded to 1 kilometer, which was already his limit. No matter how you improve, you can't get any closer. It seems that something is preventing it from continuing to grow. Reinforcement is different. 50% of Ichimaru Jin's strength. The range of Reiatsu perception has reached 5 kilometers. The moment when the field expands. Countless Zerg sensed by Yi. And what he needs to do is to find the 6 hidden female insects among the countless Zerg races. Kill them. All. Jungle, no. Riverside, no. On hill, no. Next to green space, no. Found it. Ground. Under the perception of spiritual pressure, 6 breaths of life exist in the depths of 300 meters underground. Time flow rate 10 times. With a cold sound. Shunpo. With the deepening of understanding and use, Shunpo is now as familiar to Yaiki as walking. Yi's figure disappeared from the spot, and the surrounding insect swarms were worthy of being surrounded here. A roar sounded at the place where the knight was standing. Because the speed was too fast, countless sonic booms sounded at this moment. 300 meters deep underground. The 6 female worms repeat the process of feeding, laying, feeding, and laying eggs. Maybe just for them, that's all they are. At this moment, they repeat the boring process as usual. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Sudden. Did you? One of the female worms made an inexplicable noise. Immediately afterwards, the other 5 female worms also screamed, as if they felt something. Next to them are 4 familiar figures. These 4 figures, after hearing the call, came to the side of the 6 female insects to protect them. When Yi came to this cave, what he saw was this strange picture. Journey to the West, Morgan, Jeremy, Leopold, dead and repurposed, what a shame. The 4 people no longer look like humans at this moment, but from some appearance characteristics, they can still identify their former identities. Like ants, humans can be re-incubated. Looking at the 4 people who looked like humanoid Zerg, Yi thought of ants. Like ants, Zerg and ants are biological warehouses that escaped from the Dark Continent. This could not help but make him a little imaginative. Chapter 108_. 4 figures. The moment I saw Yi, I rushed to the 3. Speed, strength, mindfulness, etc. It can be said that compared to before his death, his strength has been strengthened several times at this moment. Only the worms transformed by Journey to the West were left to continue to guard the 6 female worms. Just 3 worms in this area can solve Yi. Who do you look down on? In the face of a million-level insect sea, it is normal to have no resistance. But these few bugs, Yi still managed to deal with them. Time flow rate -10 times. A cold voice came out of his mouth. Next moment. The 3 figures that quickly rushed towards Yi stopped abruptly. Although the figure is still running, the movement has slowed down nearly 10 times. Walk in front of them. The sharp spear appeared in his hand, he drew his sword, waved it, and closed it. A touch of silver light flickered in the cave, followed by 3 sounds. Rounded objects scattered in the cave. The sound of surging blood came from the neck. Patter. The pioneer of the Hunters Association fell. He waved the purple blood on the blade toward the ground, and Yaiki put the spear back into the scabbard. After dealing with the 3 bugmen, Yi refocused on the 6 buggers. As for the insects that Journey to the West turned into. Would you put a bug that could be pinched to death in your eyes? -10 times the time flow rate. It is equivalent to abruptly slowing down their time tenfold. Under this tenfold slowdown, their thinking, consciousness, and body were all slowed down. Even if he wanted to escape, the speed after being slowed down was no doubt the speed of the turtle in the eyes of the knight. The spear was unsheathed again. Yi walked in the direction of the 6 insects with ease. Journey to the West. He rolled his eyes at the face with the appearance of Journey to the West. The right hand was slightly raised, and a touch of silver flashed. The lonely soul who should not live in this world returns to the place where he should go. Seeing that the 6 female worms could not avoid it, they even tried to attack Yi. But useless. With time being slowed down tenfold, they are not at all the enemies of Yi. A second later, the 6 female worms slowly stopped, and a slash appeared on their bodies. The task is completed. I don't know what happened to the old man. Although the divine spear turns into a void, the blood stained on it will also turn into a void. Yi still habitually sprinkled the blood on the knife. While turning around and walking out of the cave, the bodies of the 6 female worms were slowly separated. Countless worm blocks filled the cave. Would you like to go and see the battle between Nitro and the Insect King? He walked out of the cave, ignoring the army of insects that surrounded him. Yi turned his left hand into a palm, and the spiritual pressure was condensed in his hand. Broken down number 73, Double Lotus Kingfire Pendant. Accompanied by the cold voice, the fiery light flashed on Yi's hand. Next moment, the cave that Yi walked out of was completely shrouded in flames. The cave collapsed and shattered under this blow. It is a funeral for the 4 association hunters killed by the Zerg. At the same time, the endless swarms rushed towards Yi frantically. Under the special gift of perception of the species, they have learned of the death of the female insect. Crazy, only madness can vent their anger at this moment. It's a pity that although Yi couldn't solve this massive swarm, no one could kill him in his field of action. The tenfold increase in flow velocity once again acts on itself the moment it walks out of the cave. A few moments. Yi's figure disappeared from the sea of worms, leaving a swarm of wailing Zerg to kill each other in the chaos. Loss of control of the female insects, conflicts between the swarms. Fighting. At this moment, under the control of survival instinct, the swarms began to fight. The female worm will be reborn in this fight. This is their way of life. Zerg will never be exterminated. The other side. Nitro's figure is a little embarrassed. Heart, written on her body, is now mostly damaged. But even so, he still didn't dare to relax. Look at the monster on the opposite side, ready to let go. Human, I know your name, abilities and other information from the memory of food. From the moment you faced me, you have already decided the ending. Why don't you just give up and let me eat you? Standing opposite Nitro, was a petite figure. Although most of this figure is still the body of the Zerg, there are more, but it is no different from humans. Although the whole body is wrapped in purple carapace, the face and torso are exactly the same as those of humans. There are 2 short tentacles growing on the head, and 5 fingers on the hands and feet. Your human body is really good, and it is more suitable for fighting than my previous body. Seeing Nitro looking at his new body, the Insect King stood up instead. Taking a closer look, this Worm Emperor actually has some beautiful eyes. Cut. Bugs are always bugs, don't try to replace humans. Nitro's eyes were filled with hatred, as if recalling the hatred of the past. Whether it's you or Isby, trying to contaminate the human world is just wishful thinking. With roar. Nitro's hands are again in front of him. Hundreds of Avalokitesphera condensed behind. A large amount of thought energy burst out, and an inexplicable wave emanated from Nitro. Isby, ha ha ha, it's the trash I threw away 30 years ago. This waste can cause such damage and make me even more disappointed in the human world. More exaggerated thoughts than Nitro's body exploded. During the confrontation between the two, the momentum began to rub against each other. The invisible fluctuations were centered on the two of them and quickly spread out. Human. Remember, this emperor's name is Elbera. The voice falls. Elabella's figure rushed towards Nitro first. Fierce fighting began again. When the night arrives. What I saw was the picture of the two constantly attacking and defending each other. Evolved. Watching the petite figure fighting against Nitro. Yi responded quickly. Devoured westward journey, Morgan, Jeremy, and Leopold. It will naturally evolve in a direction related to human beings. The fighting skills when fighting Nitro reminded Yiki of Journey to the West. And a creature that does not exist in this world, Sharu. P.S. Jimmy Jim Jim 852 Boss. Don't rush QWQ, I have the final exam tomorrow, let me review it. Also, the Zerg should be over tomorrow. Ready to enter Ukexen, please support your readers a lot. Chapter 109 Looking at the two people who are constantly fighting in the distance. Yi Yi did not choose to rush forward rashly. Although his fighting ability is also not weak, compared to the two, he is better at assassination. In the face of two people who are stronger than themselves, jumping into the fray will only get you into trouble. All he needs to do now is to wait for the Insect King to reveal his flaws when he fights Nitro. Converging to live, Yi Yi hides in the dark, waiting for the flaws to leak out. The battle continues in the distance. After a fierce collision between the two, Nitro took the lead and stepped back a few steps, frowning at his chest. There, a long wound, was drawn. The moment the two fought, Elabella broke through his defensive line and successfully injured his body. Although due to years of combat experience, the flow of thoughts was adjusted in time to start defense. But he was still torn apart by Elbera. The injury is not serious, but it means that she has the ability to hurt herself. This is not a good start. He raised his head and stared at the humanoid creature in the distance surrounded by dark thoughts. There was an insolent smile on the other's face. Apparently she has mastered the rhythm of the Nitro fight. Nitro's face turned gloomy. According to the information of Chen, Kotobai Gigant, they met the Insect King when they raided the female insect, and at that time it was just a Zerg with special abilities. Although there is the presence of mindfulness in the body, it has not learned how to use mindfulness. This also shows that Elbera was a layman who didn't know anything about reading the day before. Although the use of Nyen is still a bit immature, it doesn't look like it was just mastered. Is it the memory of Journey to the West and theirs? Through what Elabella said earlier, it can be known that she has the ability to probe the past memory of food. Some of his information was leaked from the memories of those dead hunters. From this, it is not impossible to obtain the memory of the ability person about the use of the ability. It's just such a terrifying learning ability that really scares him. The next time you attack, you won't be able to defend. Elabella is confident, she is sure that she has fully grasped Nitro's attack routine. That moment just now was just to test my own thoughts. The voice falls. Elabella's figure disappeared instantly. With a posture that Nitro couldn't stop, he rushed in front of him. Staring. The Guanyin statue condensed behind him immediately stretched out his arms, trying to block Elabella's attack. But as she said, no matter how Nitro defends, she can predict Nitro's moves in advance and avoid them in advance. Finally, he rushed to Nitro unharmed. The handsome face smiled distorted at this moment. Game over, Nitro . One hand turned into a hand knife, and exaggerated thoughts were condensed in it. A purple-black light flashed across the sky. He actually tried to cut off Nitro by the middle. It's too late. Feeling the terrifying power and speed of this move, Nitro knew that he had lost this time. Lost in contempt for the Insect King. I didn't expect that in the end I still have to rely on Rose. This hand knife seems to slow down infinitely in Nitro's eyes. Is it an illusion? With this thought in mind, Nitro's body was suddenly pulled away by the person behind him. Next moment, the unstoppable hand knife slashed at the position where Nitro had just stood. A bottomless ravine appeared in place. It's not an illusion. Nitro had already judged who he was from the breath behind him. I didn't expect Yi Yi to save my life, it was an accident. The figure who stepped back fell to the ground. Yi Yi walked out from behind Nitro. It seems that this task is troublesome. Yi Yi's feeling came true. This Insect King Elabella was a terrifying character comparable to Sharu. If he were in the Dragon Ball world, maybe he would go down the route of devouring evolution like Sharu. The only good thing is that Hunter World has a lower level. If a character as powerful as Dragon Ball World is really swallowed up by it, maybe the whole world will be doomed. Yi Yi saw through this and gave up the hidden plan. In one's own ability. Open black lens bracket. The action time of the killer. Close black lens bracket. To slow the flow of time in Elabella. Flowers. One nitro was saved. Far away. Elabella looked at her hand, looking up and down, as if she was looking at something. There's a strange force left on it. According to her perception, this power is far more advanced than the mind she has mastered. Interesting, the new one, I have a crush on you. Elabella's tone was full of greed. Obviously her so-called fancy was not a conventional liking. Yi Yi, I will buy you time to open the space crack, you just leave without any hesitation, this commission ends here. After Nitro saw the gap, he was already heartbroken. The demon in front of him must not be allowed to enter the human world. For this, he is willing to pay the price of his life. 0. But Yi Yi can't do it, he is still young, and there are infinite possibilities in the future. He cannot be allowed to die here with him. With this thought in mind, Nitro prepares to use the last move, 100 style Avalokitesphera 0. It's just Yi Yi's next move. But it interrupted the big move he was about to release with his last life. No, I'll come. The voice fell, and under Nitro's shocked eyes, Yi Yi raised his right hand. It seems to be holding something in it. PFF'd. Tick-tock tilde tick-tock tilde. The blood slowly flowed out from the wound, and the sound of blood dripping entered the ears of Nitro and Elabella. Why? An unbelievable look appeared on Nitro's face. He couldn't understand why Yi Yi wanted to self-mutilate anyway. Far away. Elabella watched Yiki's movements with interest. To her, it seemed that there were no humans in this world who could prevent her from ruling the world. After all, from the memories of Journey to the West and others, we know that Nitro is the strongest human being in the world. She is not in danger at this time. The game has become her attitude towards the current too. Cough cough. Blood flowed uncontrollably from his mouth. However, a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Yi's mouth. PS took the exam in the morning, which caused the update to be a little late. Taking advantage of the noon break, I will update a chapter quickly. Chapter 110 _ When Bengyu's unlocking progress reached 30%, he had already started his first awakening, which can also be said to be the so-called fetal movement. The voice on the 12 Earthly Branches cruise ship is Bengyu's detection of Yi Yi's inner longing. It's a pity that Yi Yi didn't notice it. Night came to the battlefield between Nitro and Elabella. The powerful strength of the two may pose a threat to Yi Yi's life. Collapse Jade is automatically activated. Trying to persuade Yi Yi to leave in this way. Unfortunately, Yi Yi still did not find it. But when Yi Yi stood up and faced Elabella, Bengyu was completely activated. It was also at this moment that Yi Yi chose to force Bengyu to evolve. Albera, it's a pity that I won this time. A faint blue light flickered on Yi Yi's chest. Life is threatened, and Bengyu is forced to evolve. The unlocking progress of 31,400% began to rise slowly. Yi Yi was driven by the evolution of Bengyu to unconditionally become stronger. The spiritual pressure on his body began to rise. In a few seconds, Yi Yi's strength reached the level of Nitro. The speed of strength growth began to slowly slow down. This is Yi Yi, who believes that Bengyu's strength has reached this level, enough to solve the current situation. Crunch tilde crunch tilde. Hands clasped together, bones rubbing against each other. Nitro's face on the side was full of shock. Before he could recover from the shock of Yi Yi's self-mutilation, he was once again shocked by Yi Yi's rising strength. No, it's impossible, the old man has cultivated his strength for more than 100 years, and in just a few seconds. Nitro couldn't go on. This is the first time in his life that he has seen such an exaggerated growth. Interesting, so funny, I've changed my mind and I'm going to breed the best offspring in the world with you. Elabella in the distance. After feeling the breath of Yi Yi climbing, she gave up her original idea. She must not let go of such an excellent male. It's just that the voice just fell. Yi-Yi's figure appeared directly in front of her, seemingly provoked by her words. The knife in the left hand, condensed with Reiatsu, slashed towards her neck. The speed of this knife was so fast that Elabella had just slashed on her neck as soon as she could react. Scoff tilde. A streak of blood rushed out of the artery. But the next moment, the wound healed directly, and Yi-Yi's attack had no effect at all. Elbera reacted and did not waste the opportunity of Yi-Yi to get close. With one hand in the shape of a claw, he grabbed it towards Yi-Yi. Unfortunately, after the attack was effective, Yiki's figure jumped back several times in a row, easily dodging her counterattack. Sure enough, you are much more interesting than this old Nitro. His attack didn't hurt me in the slightest. The attack on herself didn't work, and Elabella didn't care. He just changed the direction of the outstretched hand and stroked it towards his neck. A streak of blood was squeezed from her fingers. Put it in your mouth and suck. Ha ha, ha ha ha. Sweet, your taste is so sweet. Laughing wildly, Elabella tasted her own blood, and in the blood there was a remnant of Yi-Yilling pressure. Night 1. Nitro looked at Yoichi's right hand in the distance. Murmured in the mouth. Even though Yiki's hand knife was able to injure Elbera, the right hand that he attacked was also injured. Elabella's exaggerated body far surpassed Yi-Yi's physique. Even if the damage was done with the help of Reiatsu, the shock also hurt Yiki himself. I can break through your defense, that's all. Glancing at his injured right hand. Yi-Yi didn't care. Since the physical quality is not comparable, then use the spiritual pressure to pile it up. What's more, when he was hiding earlier, Yi-Yi didn't do anything. The battle between Elabella and Nitro has already allowed Yi-Yi to gather enough information. Fighting against a fast and powerful opponent like her, Ghost Road can only be abandoned for the time being. Compared to her movement speed, Guido's movement is too obvious to move forward, and it is easy to be dodged. There is only other way to hurt her. At this time, Yi-Yi's breath gradually returned to calm. He was serious. In my mind, I kept simulating the clip of fighting with Elabella. Next moment, Yi-Yi walked slowly in the direction of Elabella, and his figure slowly faded until he disappeared. Nitro, who was on the side, widened his eyes. I can't see it, I can't feel it. Yi-Yi's assassination skills have improved too much. As a lover of volleyball games, Nitro has played against Yi-Yi many times. Naturally, he has seen Yi-Yi's assassination skills. Even he has to praise Yi-Yi's potential. The performance of Yi-Yi today was beyond his comprehension. Growth always takes time. But Yi-Yi mastered the mind, and it took only 10 months in total. Horror, it was the first time Nitro felt terror from Yi-Yi. Far away. Yi-Yi's figure disappeared out of thin air, making Elabella subconsciously vigilant. Although there was no information about this move in Journey to the West's memory, there was no reason for her to feel a sense of threat. Pat tilde. Suddenly, a light sound appeared behind Elbera. This made her turn around subconsciously. But when she saw the rock that was still shaking behind her, she knew that she was in the game. The figure of Yoichi in a top hat flickered and appeared behind her as she turned around. Between the knuckles surging, the phalanx quickly protrudes. This trick, he had seen in the Hunter test and the Bloodvine Guard battle to beat the enemy Haka people used. The principle is simple, just control the muscles and bones of the hand. But it can increase hand damage. Susu tilde tilde. With the sound of breaking the air, Yi 1.8's hand knife once again slashed towards Elabella's neck. Its location is the same as last time. It seems to be intentional, and it seems to be unintentional. No one knew what was on his mind. Puff. Blood flowed out again. The same action as before was repeated. The attack was successful, and Yi-Yi's figure slowly disappeared. Elbera, like a monkey being played with, couldn't find Yiki. 10 minutes later. Elabella covered her neck and looked around vigilantly. During this time, Yi-Yi attacked second rate. And she was into the next time, it was successfully defended once. Although his heart was full of vigilance, the smile slowly leaked out. This scene is very similar to her battle with Nitro. It's just that you will do useless work every night. Chapter 111 PFF'd. Blood flowed from Elabella's neck. Next moment. The wound healed automatically. This process has been going on hundreds of times. Gradually, Elabella was even a little numb, and was no longer defending her neck. And this non-defensive attitude allowed her to discover a way to attack Yi Yi. At the moment of Yoichi's attack, he ignored his attack. Take this opportunity to launch a counterattack. After several attempts, she has figured out Yi Yi's attack routine. A smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. If you ignore the color of the skin and the tentacles on the head, this delicate appearance may attract many humans. As long as Yi Yi attacks again and again, she will be sure to kill Yi Yi with this counterattack. But she didn't pay attention to the slightly raised smile at the corner of Yi Yi's mouth. Nitro in the distance has a panoramic view of this scene. Although he didn't know Yoichi's intentions, he found that the recovery speed of Elabella's neck was not as fast as it started. It seems that he has become accustomed to the existence of Wound 14. This can't help but make him feel the horror of Yi Yi. Although he can't achieve a single kill, but relying on countless attacks, the opponent's body gradually gets used to his own attack. Such skills, Nitro thinks he can't do it. Perhaps, it is really old. Looking back at the 100 years of the Hunter Association, no matter how many geniuses have appeared, he has never had such an idea. But Yi Yi's existence made him change his mind. This battle can be said to have seen the end. Susu tilde. There were bursts of sounds from the surrounding woods, and Nitro subconsciously sensed the surroundings. Millions of bugs. You can't interfere with Yi Yi tilde. Countless Zerg. I don't know when they have come here. Hands together. The golden Avalokitesfera once again condensed behind Nitro. Although the strength of the old man is low, but if you want to stop you bugs for a while, you can still do it. The voice falls. The Guanyin statue behind him began to change his posture. The endless sea of insects rushed in front of him. 100-style Avalokitesfera 1 style. His eyes snapped open, and the battle that belonged to Nitro started again. The other side. Yi Yi's figure gradually emerged from the darkness. Elabella thought that her killing intent could be concealed from Yi Yi, but she didn't know that in front of Yi Yi, her killing intent was as obvious as a torch in the dark night. But he didn't care about that either. After hundreds of attacks, Yi Yi had thoroughly figured out the defense limit of Elabella's body. At the same time, the spiritual pressure on the body is silently attached to each attack. After hundreds of times of accumulation, her recovery speed was finally suppressed. This also gave the sharp gun the possibility of piercing her flesh. The constant attack is also Yi Yi's constant testing to test whether her body can block the penetration of the magic spear. It's a pity that Elabella didn't find out about Yi Yi's hands and feet. This is why she is doomed to fail. Looking at Elabella who didn't know it in the distance, Yi Yi shook her head. After the strength of the two was forcibly pulled to the same realm by Beng Yu, all her hidden shortcomings were exposed. No combat experience, no skills, no ability to use, just rely on the experience of hunters such as Journey to the West to fight. That is, Nitro's fighting method will be seen by her. Yi Yi is different, his shots can be said to be completely irregular. As long as Elabella has a broken butt, he will attack with the killer's action time. The flow of time was fast and slow, and she couldn't sense Yi Yi's attack pattern at all. This way of fighting made her unable to start. Reappearing, although Elabella was a little surprised, this moment was an exceptional opportunity for her. An insolent smile hung on his face. The power of thought subconsciously concentrated on the legs, and the muscles began to swell. Next moment. The chanting broke out at the feet of Elabella. The terrifying speed that erupted at this moment, even Yi Yi can't match. Sonic booms kept coming out behind her. At this moment, the figure came to Yi Yi. Even Yi Yi can only see a vague figure, but is this important? The killer's action time. The invisible realm spread out again, and Elbera's figure was also in this realm. Time flow rate -50 times. At this moment, Elabella ran like a slow old man. The magic gun appeared in Yi Yi's hand. She unsheathed it and aimed at Elbella's neck where Yi Yiling was hidden. "Goodbye, Elbera." A cold voice came from Yi Yi's mouth. Dissolution. Next moment. The spiritual pressure on his body quickly condensed on the blade of the sharp gun in his hand. The exaggerated Reiatsu is as vast and boundless as the endless sea. God-killing gun. Exaggerated roar. The clouds in the sky shattered instantly, and the surrounding jungle was annihilated and turned into debris. The endless long blade shot directly at the neck that Yi Yi had attacked hundreds of times. Scoff tilde. The sharp gun paused for a moment, and then penetrated it completely the next moment. Moment back. Pulling the sharp spear out of Elabella's neck, a diamond-shaped notch appeared on the blade. A cold smile emerges. Time flow normal. Elabella's figure rushing forward regained its agility, but the injury caused by the sudden penetration of her neck caused her to stop subconsciously. How is it possible? What did you do? Incomprehensible. She couldn't realize it when the flow of time changed. Therefore, this wound, for her, suddenly appeared on her neck. Reminiscent of the previous hundreds of attacks. She thought it was Yi Yi who did something at that time. Pity. It's useless. No matter what you do, I can recover from such a wound in a second. He stretched out his hand to cover the wound, not caring at all about the small penetrating wound. To this, Yi Yi smiled. The corners of his mouth arched slightly. Shoot him, God-killing gun. Boom tilde. Next moment. The toxins hidden in the neck begin to dissolve. The connection point between the head and the body, the neck, exploded instantly. Qingshou's head was blown to Yi Yi's feet. Hold it lightly in your hand. Good night tilde. I wish you a good dream. Chapter 112 Insect King Elabella. In less than a day of evolution, it is possible to fight with Nitro, who has opened the 100-style Guanyin, and even grasping the timing of the battle is far more than Nitro. Just like the future Ant King, Maloom. But it was precisely because of her super sensitivity in grasping the timing of the battle that she was unable to fight back in Yaiki's attack. Killer. It never depends on the front and the enemy hard steel. Only when opening Wushwang will there be a positive choice. In the face of an enemy whose strength is the same as himself, or stronger than himself, the killer will not easily reveal his existence without the assurance of absolute victory. A frivolous, poisonous snake, standing by in secret, looking for flaws. One blow is fatal. I am a snake. I have a cold skin and a thin heart. I use the tip of my tongue to hunt prey everywhere, and when I meet my favorite prey, I swallow it whole. Yi Yi is such a creature. Insect King Elbera was just a prey that he was targeting. Nitro divided the battlefield, and tens of millions of Zerg lost their threat to Yi Yi, which was also her first step into the trap. Hold the head in your hands. Elabella's face remained motionless, and she smoothed her hideous eyes, like a sleeping girl, who seemed to have some pretty eyes. A light blue light burst out from the head and flew towards Yi Yi's chest. Collapse Jade unlock progress, 35%. Elabella alone contributed 5% of the unlocking progress to Yi Yi, which really surprised him. But there is some regret in my heart. The unlocking progress in the future may be difficult to continue to improve. The transformation of Collapse Jade can be divided into 3 times. Every transformation can make it burst into a higher dimension. But what is needed is not only the absorption of the soul, but also the accumulation of time. This time the transformation was completed, and it was forced by Yi Yi. It consumes a lot of energy from Bengyu, making the second metamorphosis extend backwards. In the near future, Collapsing Jade can only maintain the first stage. Throwing Elbera's head up and down, Yaiki pondered what to do. It would be a tragedy if the head and remnant were swallowed by other Zerg, or blown into the sea in the next explosion and swallowed by marine creatures. Think for a moment. The torso is useless and not easy to carry. Yi gave up the idea of using it as a collectible and only took Elabella's head away. The figure gradually rises to the sky. Left hand spiritual pressure flashes. Aim at Elabella's remnant. The turbid coat of arms is faintly revealed. Untamed and arrogant talent surges. Negative paralysis for a moment. The Iron Princess who is blocking her long sleep and crawling is constantly self-mutilating. Let's bounce back and stretch to the ground. Know your own powerlessness. Broken down number 90, Black Coffin. A cold voice came from the air. Next moment. A black wall rose from the surface, and the envelope was infinitely compressed by Yi, just wrapping Elabella's remnant. The black walls revealed bursts of oppression. Even Yi himself, if he was attacked by the black coffin, would not be able to protect himself from damage. The black wall continued to emerge, becoming a black cuboid, wrapping the remnant of Elabella. Right above the black coffin, there are several black crosses slanted. The whole black coffin exudes the breath of death. Chi tilde chi tilde chi tilde. Next moment. With the sound of countless cutting sounds, purple-black blood diffused out. The black coffin slowly shattered and disappeared, leaking out of the empty ground inside. Elbera's remnant had disappeared, and not even the scum that was cut by the black coffin was left. To this. Seeing that his purpose has been completed, Yi continued to fly into the air. The breath of nitro in the distance was shrouded in the endless sea of worms. If Yi didn't go to support him, he would be swallowed by this endless sea of worms in a short time. The strength of the Zerg has never been the physical strength. Crushing with a large number of individuals is the real reason for the hegemony of the Zerg. Just unlucky. This time, Yi and Nitro carried out a beheading operation before the swarm had grown. Half an hour later, Yaiki uses Reiatsu to bring Nitro to the skies over the Berzakova Islands. A position at an altitude of 1 kilometer. A sharp gasp came from Nitro's mouth. No one knows what he went through to stop the sea of worms and support Elbella. The breath on his body fell into a slump. If Yi was a few seconds late to support him, he would have died in the sea of worms at this moment and became the food for the new female worm. This position should be enough. Looking at the archipelago below, Yi's eyes narrowed slightly. Estimate the height at this time, the power of the explosion, the flow of the wind and other factors. If these preparations go wrong, even he is likely to be buried here. The height of about 1,000 meters should be enough, but I didn't expect to use this rose in the end. Nitro's breathing gradually eased. Under the restraint of absolute, his breath gradually began to recover. 2 poor man's roses appeared in Yi's hands. Dark aura emanated from the 2 of them. Since the Zerg feed on humans, this time it's up to them to feel the bottomless malice of humans. Nitro's voice was malicious. This was also the first time Yi saw such a dark Nitro. The arm muscles swell and the Reiatsu covers the muscles. Activate. Throw. 2 small bombs were thrown at the central and 2 ends of the archipelago by Yi, with great force. According to Yi's calculations, the biological virus after the rose explosion in these 2 locations could cover half of the archipelago. 2 roses just cover the entire archipelago. The terrifying biological virus is enough to cause the island to lose control and the Zerg in chaos to die. The spear emerges in Yi's hands. Cross cut through the sky. Cracks appeared in the air. No time wasted, get into the crack quickly and close it. 2 huge roses appeared in the archipelago. The next day. Looking at the woman beside her who followed her hard, her icy expression couldn't be maintained. Bloodvine is only born in 100 years. I will definitely go with you. I must watch it with my own eyes. What if something goes wrong? Cheeto Yorkshire, who is speaking righteously. Yi reluctantly agreed. Chapter 113_. Ukexan suburbs. Inside an abandoned church. A dozen figures are waiting quietly. The new number 4 is so smudged, isn't it too arrogant? I don't know, I told you. Isn't this guy your job? Cut. I'm only responsible for the notification. It doesn't matter if he comes or not. After a while of conversation, the scene returned to tranquility again. Wo Jin, who was the first to speak, was even more anxious when he didn't get the answer he wanted. When he comes, I must teach that guy a good lesson. The sound of gnashing teeth came from Wo Jin's mouth. It can be seen that he is a very strict character with time requirements. The voice just fell. In the shadow not far away, a figure walked out. You seem to be discussing something horrible. Stepping out of the shadows, his face was exposed to everyone's sight, Hisoka. Seeing Hisoka, the people who spoke earlier were even more angry. They all complained. Hiso, you're so late here. I thought you weren't coming. But let's wait a while. After a simple greeting, the knight walked to the moonlight and called to another figure who was quietly reading a book in the distance. Captain, everyone is here tilde. The figure who was quietly reading a book did not get up. Still flipping through the book in hand. Wait, there's another guy, and I'm waiting for him. The soft voice is full of magical magic, making everyone's irritable mood slowly calm. The knight turned to look at the other tall woman. It seems to be asking something. It's just that the woman he was looking at didn't know about it. Shaking his head helplessly. Then there's no way, why don't we play poker to pass the time? But the knight's words were only half said. The sudden pressure from the sky forced him to stop. The dozen or so figures around also subconsciously stood up and ran towards the outside of the church. The dark and oppressive atmosphere makes these people full of vigilance. Run outside the church and look into the air. The dark and depressing breath emanated from the air. It's just that even if everyone uses condensation, they can't see the hidden enemy. Everyone looked at each other left and right to confirm that the breath was indeed there. It should be the person I'm waiting for. Under the tense and dignified atmosphere, the man who read the book before came to the crowd at some unknown time. Hearing this sentence, everyone was curious as to who made this man wait so long, and his appearance was so exaggerated. Captain, who is the person you were waiting for? This is too exaggerated. Feeling the dark breath in the air, the knight couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. As a non-combat member of the brigade, his strength is not strong. Yi, the man you once met in Meteor Street. Krollo didn't hide the inquiries from his team members, it wasn't a secret that couldn't be told. I didn't expect it to be that guy. When he chose to leave Meteor Street, it was really the right choice. Hearing Krollo's answer, the knight's pupils shrank suddenly. The conversation between the two was like a book from heaven to the members behind them, and they had no idea what they were talking about. Only Hisoka and Kobo know the name Yi. Yi, a growing green apple. Does he know Krollo? Hisoka recalled various messages from Yi. But he still had too little contact with Yi, so he couldn't get the answer he wanted from this information. Kobo is the knight one to borrow his ability, Krollo told him about it in advance. Just when everyone in the Phantom Troop speculated, the sky changed. One after another cracks appeared in the air. As the crack appeared, the dark and ominous aura became more and more obvious. Captain, don't say that's how your friends come out. Looking at the broken sky, Wo Jin's face was full of excitement. Although he didn't know how to smash the sky, he knew that the person who could smash the sky was definitely a strong man. This ability should be related to long-distance teleportation. I have seen similar things in books, but it is not so exaggerated. The knight recalled what he had seen. Space teleportation capabilities, although rare, are not absent in this world. Nobu in the Hunter Association can do a similar operation. Ability is ability, but this dark aura is really amazing. I have entered many ruins, but none of them can compare to this. Nobunaga put his hand over his eyes, as if he wanted to see more clearly. For these questions, Krollo did not answer. Or rather, he didn't have an answer either. His information about Yi was still based on the data he had collected when he stayed in Kaimei continent. At that time, Yi only attracted his attention with his skillful mind application skills and outstanding talent. As for what ability has been developed, Krollo is not clear. He didn't even know how strong Lien Yi was at this time. It is precisely because of his ignorance of Yi that Krollo asked the knight to stop cooperating with Yi and leave Meteor Street. Just to protect their team members. Click tilde click tilde. When everyone in the Phantom Brigade was thinking, the cracks in the air suddenly shattered. A gap like when the eyes were opened appeared in the sight of everyone. Pat tilde pat tilde. The sound of gentle footsteps came from the gap. The two figures were gradually exposed to everyone's eyes. Yo tilde Krollo, I kept you waiting. A cold voice came from the mouth that came out of the gap. This also allowed most of the brigade to see his true face. A black dress complemented her figure. The long slender silver hair is draped behind her, giving a natural beauty. But what caught everyone's attention the most was the young face. A boy who was only 15 or 16 years old appeared in front of them. This could not help but shocked everyone in the Phantom Troop. Cheeto Yorkshire frowned slightly as she looked at the environment below. This is the place you were talking about. It's too shabby. Chapter 114 _ Yi and Chi duo walked out of the black cavity. Jump from the sky. Boom tilde tilde tilde. The ground was broken in a large area in a corrugated shape tilde. In order to avoid injury, the two of them instantly erupted from the soles of their feet at the moment of landing, and Reiatsu. With Nitro's method on the second trial of the Hunter test. At the time of the experiment, Yi's technique could not accomplish this step. But after Bisuki's special training and remastering of her power, such skills are as casual as instinct. As one of the 12 earthly branches, Kijua was not a combatant, but his combat power was enough to kill most of the brigade present. Only Phaeton, Finks, Franklin and other combat members can resist for a moment. Krollo and Hisoka are comparable in strength to Cheeto Yorkshire. After all, what she is good at is not fighting, but as a doctor to treat patients and organize planning and so on. Ho tilde. Watching the huge corrugated collapse beneath the two of them, the members of the Phantom Troop looked serious. In terms of their strength. Naturally, he can jump from a high altitude to ensure that he is not hurt. But more is to use the method of unloading, like this method of directly using the jet of thought to offset the impact. They think they can't do it. Krollo and Hisoka may be able to do this, but it is definitely not as easy as the two of them. Yaiki and Cheeto walked in Krollo's direction. Ignore the members of the brigade next to me. For Yi, the members of the brigade had nothing to do with him, and there was no reason for hostility, so they were just ordinary passers-by. For Chi Duo, although these people's strengths are good, they can't threaten their own lives, so they ignore them. At the same time, it was the non-hostile attitude of the two, which dispelled the anxiety of everyone in the Phantom Brigade. Just watch out for the two of them. According to the agreed time, to carry out the transaction. Walk to Krollo's side and start the transaction between the two directly. Chi Duo, who was beside him, kept urging him, and Yi naturally wanted to quickly end the transaction and complete his commission. After all, this is what he did behind the back of his employer. Now that he was discovered by the employer and has been urged all the time, even he was a little embarrassed. For Yi to be so direct, Krollo did not refuse. Call Kube. The man whose face was covered by his hair was not tall, and was one of the shortest people in the brigade. Captain, is this the object of the transaction? He came to Krollo's side and asked subconsciously. Yes, according to the agreement, help him copy the blood vine. While answering, Krollo looked at Yoichi. The purpose is obviously to ask him to take out the blood vine so that Kube can make a copy. In this regard, Yi was not afraid that Krollo would miss the appointment and snatch the blood vine. Perhaps half a year ago, Yi had some scruples about him, worried that the blood vine would be robbed. But now, Yi's strength is not in the same dimension as Krollo, so naturally he won't worry. Take out the special container containing the blood vine directly. After the blood vine is picked off in Meteor Street, the activity will begin to lose until the activity is completely lost. Only in this special container can its activity be blocked to prevent the effect from weakening. Wait, you can't do it here, the environment here is too bad, it will speed up the loss of blood vine activity. Watch as the two prepare to trade directly on the spot. As the owner of the blood vine, Chi Duo is naturally unhappy. Whether the blood vine is doing research or serving as a healing medicine in the future, the more active it is, the better. But the environment here will only speed up the loss of bloodline activity. Cube looked at Crollo and asked for his opinion. Close your eyes and think. Crollo Black Diamond walked in the direction of his team members. Tell everyone the purpose of this action. With Wojan's frenzied cheers, Crollo returned to Yi Yi and Cheeto's side. Half an hour later, the four came to a Yukexan hospital. In the hospital, the replication of the blood vine went very smoothly. The first pearl of blood vine was successfully copied, and it was handed over to Kijua to check whether it was consistent with the original effect. Cut a small part from the two blood vines and put them into the mouth to chew. Feel the difference in potency in this simple and crude way. Quite a while. His eyes snapped open, and there was an unstoppable surprise in his eyes. Flowers. From her performance, it is known that the copied items are no different from the real ones. It also appeared that the two of them did not go all in vain. Feeling the slowly increasing thoughts in the body, new ideas emerged in Chi Duo's mind. Just before that, you need to complete the transaction with the brigade. This was negotiated between Yi Yi and Crollo, and even she couldn't destroy it at will. 10 minutes later, the 13 blood vines that the brigade wanted were copied. Kubei's face also turned pale. If he just copied ordinary items, even if it were hundreds or thousands, he would not be so powerless. But the blood vine is different. This is a holy relic that grows in Meteor Street and matures only once in 100 years. The energy contained in it is not comparable to ordinary items. 13 blood vines were put away by Crollo. The smile on his face was softer, and he was obviously very satisfied with this transaction. Then the deal is over, see you next time. Close the deal. Crollo didn't have the slightest idea of spying on the original blood vine. Whether it was a replica of the 13 beads in his hand that was indistinguishable from the original blood vine, or the strength of Yi Yi and Kai Duo, he couldn't have the slightest idea of snatch it. Just wait, I want to make a long-term deal with you. Cheetah's voice stopped the two who were about to leave. I don't think you two will refuse. At this moment, there was something unmistakable in her voice. Of course, we will not refuse the request of the 12 earthly branches. Crollo, who was about to leave, turned around. The feminine smile was still hanging on his face, as if he had expected the transaction for a long time, and there was no surprise at all. Negotiations begin. Yi Yi was not interested in learning about it, so he swallowed his own blood vine replica in one bite. Replica only lasts for 24 hours, and when time passes, it disappears. The effect it can bring is not different from the original one. Feel the spiritual pressure and physical enhancement. Very satisfied with the night. The only pity is that the blood vine is resistant and can only be taken once. Sun. Chapter 115_. The sky is getting brighter. Negotiations continued. Yi Yi meditated in the ward next door. Master the rapidly growing mind energy in the body and convert it into spiritual pressure. After deciding to focus on spiritual pressure in the future, the chi that grows every day is transformed into spiritual pressure by Yaiki. Another way to become stronger before the inheritance unlocking degree reaches 100%. Yi Yi had no reason to give up. On a bed next to Yi Yi, Kobo was exhausted. Currently sleeping. Based on his character born on Meteor Street, Ben would not sleep in front of outsiders at will. Just like the knight, always stay vigilant at all times. But after communicating with him in the Meteor Street dialect at night, Kobo let down his guard. Unlike anyone else anywhere else. We don't reject anything, but don't even try to take anything from us. Under such a concept, every strong person who walks out of Meteor Street is a companion, and they may not communicate with each other at ordinary times, but in terms of the life and reputation of their compatriots, they will not allow anyone to trample on them at will. Such a thing is not without precedent. A country suspects an undocumented homeless man of murder and arrests him. After checking their identity, the homeless have no nationality and no proof of social existence. He himself claimed to be a resident of Meteor Street. The country forcibly prosecuted the homeless person who denies the charges, and the court convicted him without giving him a chance to explain. 3 years later, the criminals who abused drugs were arrested, and the remaining crimes were exposed one after another, proving that the homeless are innocent. Immediately after the incident, police officers, magistrates, prosecutors, eyewitnesses, jurors, lawyers, 31 people related to his wrongful imprisonment were all killed. Regarding the method of killing, they carried a switch-type bomb and perished with each other, which was almost like suicide. Witnesses described the bomb as they laughed and shook hands with each other. 31 people in different places were killed at the same time. This is how the people of Meteor Street live. We don't reject anything, but don't even try to take anything from us. 3 hours later. All the transactions between us only represent my personal transactions with QB, and have nothing to do with the Hunter Association and the Phantom Troop. Please remember this. Cheeto's expression was serious and serious. Obviously, she cares a lot about what she said. Of course, the transaction this time is between you and QB, and I'm just his personal assistant. Crollo understands Cheeto's concerns. At this point, the negotiation that lasted for half a night was over. Kube's identity has also changed from a thief of the Phantom Brigade to the new manager of Kijua's medicinal herb research company. Closing deals and negotiations. Before leaving, Kube copied a blood vine again, which was a gift for Yi, a compatriot. There was a smile on the simple face. After parting and saying goodbye, Yaiki and Cheetah disappeared into the crowd, leaving a group of security guards who found nothing. As for whether the Phantom Troop will be different from the original because of this blood vine, Yi doesn't care. This is a living world, and everyone has their own will and circumstances. It's dawn, and it's time for breakfast. 2 people find a restaurant. Satisfied with their own breakfast, Chiduo got the result she wanted, with a relaxed smile on her face. The feeling of Yi is not as disgusting as before. After getting a satisfactory answer, Chiduo doesn't mind revealing a message to Yi. The westward journey of the 12 earthly branches has died, and this position must be filled. As for who will be replaced, it will be selected at the 12 earthly branches meeting next year. Let go of this inexplicable sentence. Chiduo finished breakfast and started to deal with her own affairs, just like the first time the two met. As one of the 12 earthly branches, her work is very heavy. The negotiation last night delayed her normal work time. She needs to solve these tasks as soon as possible to avoid the accumulation of work. I didn't bother at night, I quietly enjoyed my breakfast. From Zerg appearance to disappearance. It only took 3 days, but there are not many things experienced in these 3 days. Several life and death crises, even he felt sleepy. What's more, he went to the Sky Arena with a relaxed attitude. Bishiji's training plan interrupted his thoughts. The Zerg that followed made him even more exhausted. These few days, he just wanted to have a good rest and not take any commissions. Half an hour later, Cheeto put down the document in his hand and put it in the briefcase he carried with him. Accumulate a night's work to solve the most urgent part. For the rest, she still needs to go back to the association to come out. The two walked out of the restaurant and found an unoccupied place. With the sharp gun in hand, the cross cut through the sky. The black cavity is used at one time. Yi sent Cheeto back to the association as agreed before departure. dash 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 dash. Walking on the streets of Ukexin, Yi wandered around casually like a tourist. Complete the commission. Alone at this time. Do whatever you want. After booking the hotel, we went to the streets. Of course, even if it is wandering, the killer's instinct makes him subconsciously take the surrounding environment into his heart. The safe route had been planned successfully before he could react. Passing by a park, many pigeons are walking around in the park, waiting for kind people to feed them. Looking around, the park environment is good, you can see that someone cleans it every day. Find a row of seats and choose one that can be hit by the sun. Back on the seat, the sun shines on the body, a kind of idle and lazy atmosphere permeates. From time to time the pigeons in the distance chirped, not harsh. Instead, add a touch of relaxed vibe to the park. 10 minutes later. Fall asleep at night. Not far from the park. It's a stall with a long queue. A teenager in green clothes is wrestling with a group of muscular men. Among the group of muscular men, a girl who looked like a scholar stepped out abruptly, and raised her wrists with the boy. Chapter 116 _ Night falls. Yi also left the park where he was resting. Occasionally relax, make him feel good. On the way to the hotel, a phone rang and he took it out of his pocket, but the name of the call made his eyes straight. Open black lens bracket Boss Arthur close black lens bracket. The remarks on Yi's phone call are very simple. The front is the identity and the back is the name. This is a habit he has retained from the past, in order to more easily distinguish between many clients. For Arthur contact yourself. Yi didn't know the reason, after all, he had only had 2 contacts with Arthur in total. During the first killer training. The second time, when I told him about Juno beating the enemy. Other than that, there is no contact with him. Drip tilde. Call connected. An old but majestic voice came from it. Number 1, how far is your current location from Ukexin City? Maybe it's the nature of the killer. There was not too much nonsense on the phone. Number 14, Arthur directly asked Yi's location. I'm in Ukexin City now. Yi didn't care about the name of number 1. In the killer training session he graduated from, Yi won the title of number 1 foot for the first place. This is not only a title, but also shows his strength in the organization's ranking. Really, that happens to be a commission. Someone needs to go to Ukexin. I don't know if you have time. Hearing that Yi was at Ukexin at this time, Arthur's voice was a little distorted. Obviously not quite at such a critical moment. Yi is here. Okay, I just don't have a commission right now. Regarding the task Arthur mentioned, Yi didn't feel that he could waste too much time. It did not refuse. Someone will contact you later to complete this commission with you, so I will trouble you. Hearing Yi's reply, Arthur quickly arranged related matters. Pat tilde. The phone is hung up. As the leader of the organization, Arthur is responsible for as many things every day as Chi. He personally finds the killer to complete the commission like this. Yi is the first time he meets him. It is estimated that there is an organization or individual stronger than the killer organization. A mandate is issued to the organization. Out of desperation, the organization was forced to find people everywhere to complete the commission. Yi was not surprised by this. After all, the killer organization he belonged to was not a well-known organization. Arthur's actions were quick, and only 5 minutes had passed since he hung up the phone, and another call came. Pass the time. Number 8. Look at the familiar notes on the phone. Yi was a little surprised, but at the same time felt reasonable. After all, when the two separated, she had already said that she wanted to be indulgent at this year's Ukexin auction. Drip tilde. Line connected. At the same time, continue to walk towards the direction of the booked hotel. Hello tilde, is it number 1? I'm number 8 here. I'm number 8 here. Please answer if you hear. Please answer if you hear tilde. A familiar voice came from the phone. The funny voice reminded Yi of the episode when he was with number 8. For him, who had not yet fully integrated into the world at the time, having such a teammate who likes to be funny has also become the only fun to pass the time outside of practice. Where is your current position? I'll find you. The icy voice softened a little. Yi planned to meet with number 8 first to discuss the specific matters entrusted. The other side. Tilde sure enough, I was looking for a target at the top of the building near the auction venue. The location is 8 in a black suit. Hang up the phone and refocus on the door of the auction venue. A large number of gang members gathered at the door, and the riot broke out at this moment. Really, thanks to the task, or I should have died with those people now, I'm really lucky. Seeing the gang members angrily shooting into the sky, number 8's face was a little flustered. If it's so easy to die, it's a big loss. I haven't played enough yet, at least I have to kill one. Reach out to your chest. There was a thumping thud at the moment, and even though it had been a long time, her heart had not calmed down. She didn't notice that a figure in the air quickly fell towards her position. The last sentence spoken was just heard by this figure. Kill a what? A cold voice sounded from behind. Unknowingly touched beside him, number 8's cold hair exploded instantly. While pulling out a dagger in his left hand, he quickly turned around. But when she saw the familiar face, her legs suddenly softened and she sat directly on the ground. Obviously frightened. Yi frowned slightly when he looked at number 8 who looked like this. Although I don't mind how strong my partner is, it's a bit unreasonable to be frightened by the slightest fright. Recalling that before she left, when she said she was going to the resort to relax, Yi seemed to understand something. Quite a while. The beating heart slowly calmed down. Why did you arrive so soon? Walking without a sound at all, it's scary. Only then did number 8 slowly stand up and stretch out his hand to take responsibility for Yi's intimidating behavior. In this regard, Yi's murderous intent was slightly released. You have been too slack in this year. The cold voice was matched with murderous intent. Yi's face instantly became fierce in number 8's eyes. Immediately, he didn't dare to talk nonsense. Only then did I remember the identity of the person in front of me and my ranking in the organization. Seeing number 8 calm down his body and mind, Yi took back his murderous aura. Since you remembered your identity at the first level, I won't say anything. Please give me a detailed introduction to this mission. The voice returned to its former icy coldness. At this moment, the relationship between the two is like meeting for the first time. The impression that number 8 once left here was instantly changed by herself. Yes, this time the entrustment was issued by the 10 old men, entrusting us to take back the auction items that were taken away by the Phantom Troop. 3 minutes later. Knight closed his eyes and thought. The auction item has long been taken away by Yin Beast, and now that this commission is released, it should be more for the sake of face. Not found at all. 8 behind him, the excited smile in his eyes. This is the look in the eyes of the prey. Chapter 117 _ Clear your mind. The fundamental purpose of the 10 old men's entrustment is not to let Yi and others retrieve the auction items, but to take care of their faces in the dark world. If all the guests at the auction die, they do nothing. Not only is the reputation damaged, but there is no one to participate in the future auctions. More of a majesty challenged. The clans under him will therefore think that the 10 old men are not as powerful as before, and people's hearts will become confused, and rebellion will become inevitable. In order to stabilize their own domination, the 10 old men and other gangster families must send someone to deal with this matter, regardless of whether it is in their hearts or not. Unfortunately, Yi's organization received a more troublesome request. Because the auction items at this time were originally in the hands of the Yin Beast, an organization under the 10 old men. This mission can be said to have been doomed to fail when it was released. But the information Yi knew gave him a chance to complete the mission. As long as the owl is caught before he is solved by the brigade, and the auction item is obtained from him, this mission can be completed. Make up one's mind. Yi turned around and prepared to take his so-called partner to find the yin beast named Owl. Just the moment he turned around, his eyes wrinkled slightly. I don't know if it's an illusion, but the number 8 in front of him seems to have thoughts flowing. Next moment, this feeling disappeared without a trace. What's the matter, number 1? Perhaps frightened by Yi's murderous aura, number 8 at this time no longer had the playful mentality that he had in the beginning. The tone also returned to normal from the escape. Seeing that number 8 was normal, Yi did not continue to doubt. The spiritual pressure on the body is towards the number 8 package. Go on a mission now, and this mission will fail later. A cold voice came out. Ling number 8 was a little confused. After all, she just explained the general information of the mission just now. But before he had time to think, he suddenly found that he had followed number 1 foot into the air. In a panic, he suddenly moved to Yi's side and hugged his arm. Wait, why did I suddenly ascend to the sky? You tell me, I almost urinated. Fast movement in the air. The noise of the wind flashed past my ears. Yi didn't hear number 8's words at all. Only vaguely heard the words, quick to pee. The ice-cold face couldn't hold back, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch slightly. And seen each other for nearly a year, and this, number 8 feet seems to be more detached than before, completely forgetting the image of the arrogant goddess in the organization. Because of the fast flight, the long silver hair floated behind Yiki under the influence of gravity. Number 8, curiously leaned up and glanced. Nightmares ensued. For the first time, she felt the pain of being slapped by her hair. 3 minutes later. With a faint thumping sound. The speed of the flight began to slow down, and the sound of the thumping disappeared. Looking at the ruddy face and panting, number 8 feet Yi no longer wanted to pay attention. On the hillside in the distance, the silhouette of the phantom troop can already be clearly identified. With the 8th, flew towards the direction of the brigade. For the owl who doesn't know where he is at the moment, Yi thought it was the most labor-saving way to come to the brigade and wait. After all, the target of the yin beast at this time is the Phantom Brigade. Susu tilde tilde. Accompanied by the sound of breaking the air. The boring poker players on the hillside quickly became vigilant and looked up in the air. But when he saw the familiar silver hair, he sat down again boringly. Che, I thought it was you, but it turned out to be you tilde yes 8. The knight's tone was full of disappointment, apparently thinking that someone could bring him some fun. The knight is also somewhat familiar with Yi's character. If you don't provoke him, there is a high probability that there will be no conflict between the two sides. And his attitude when he landed from the air, it can be judged that there is no hostility to the brigade at present. Therefore, the Phantom Troop and Yi both. There is no reason to go to war right now. This is the reason why the knight looks so relaxed now. Just the moment he saw Yi, he had already analyzed everything. Several other members of the group, the situation is basically the same. The moment he saw Yi, he analyzed that there was no conflict between him and the brigade. It's just that even if the results are analyzed, the process has to go a bit. Phaeton saw that the other members continued to sit down and play poker, so he could only take on this task. Yi, bring a woman who doesn't know her name here, what is your purpose? Different from other members of the brigade. When Phaeton spoke, because his face was covered by the collar and mask, his voice was not clear, and there was some Meteor Street dialect on the outside. This made the number 8 feet beside Yi completely unaware of what Phaeton was saying. Quote. It's nothing. It's just that the mission is related to yin beasts. They are chasing your brigade, and I'm just waiting for them here by the way. Yi's voice was cold and also had a Meteor Street dialect. While revealing his purpose, he also dispelled Phaeton's hostility. Under such circumstances, the common ground of being born on Meteor Street is particularly important. Opposite. Hearing the familiar dialect, Phaeton took a closer look at Yi Yi's face, as if he wanted to remember him. Then turned and sat down. Continue to watch with Nobunaga below Wojin vs. Gangsters. But this is called a war, but it is actually a unilateral killing. Got it, Zhao, hee hee. This time I won again. Aside. The knight dropped the poker in his hand and cheered for another victory. Hey Yi Yi, do you want to play together? These guys are so rude and boring. The victorious knight also invited Yi Yi to the side. The way a few of them play is a popular way of playing in Meteor Street. Yi Yi, who is born from Meteor Street, naturally will too. Yes, just to pass the time. The waiting process is boring, there are ways to pass the time, Yi Yi doesn't mind playing together. For the night one joins. Franklin, Shouty, and Maggie had no objections. Whether it is the transaction of blood vines, or Yi Yi's powerful strength, and the birth of each other's Meteor Street. All made the Phantom Troupe have no idea of having a bad relationship with Yi Yi. Chapter 118 10 minutes later. Drop your poker. Yi Chi stood up and looked into the distance, and the feeling of being watched came from there. Hey, Yi Yi, don't throw away your cards when you're about to lose, it's too cunning. Shouty saw that it was rare for him to win once, but Yi Yi's sudden action ended the game in an instant. There were 2 small dumplings on his face, and he couldn't help complaining. The knight and Franklin didn't speak, they just looked at Maggie on the side. After Yi Yi dropped the card, Maggie made the same reaction as Yi Yi. The capable ones are there. It's just that Maggie hasn't opened her mouth yet, and Yi Yi explained it first. Heaven and earth conscience, he really just sensed the existence of the enemy, definitely not because he lost 6 games in a row and didn't want to lose. The cold voice shocked the members present. All of them, except Maggie, sensed the presence of the enemy due to Yi Yi's influence. The others didn't respond at all. Either the enemy's ability to hide is excellent, evading the perception of the team members present. Either the enemy is hiding too far away, beyond the perception range of the team members present. But no matter what the result is, it seems to reflect the strength of Yi Yi's strength. Cut, when did such a monster appear in Meteor Street? Nobunaga, who was also born in Meteor Street. He couldn't understand Yiki's terrifying strength. Especially when Yi Yi appeared to be only a teenager at this time. Number 8 Feet, who has been a passerby since he was brought here by Yi Yi, looked at Yi Yi talking with these members in general, and he didn't know what to think. A faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. It seems to be planning something. For all this, Yi Yi didn't notice it. When playing poker, he maximized his perception and waited for Xiao Xiao to appear, but Xiao Xiao did not find it, but instead found his old acquaintance. 3 kilometers, the enemy's distance is about 3 kilometers. The location of Kurapika and Melody. Yi Yi told several members of the group in this way, without any scruples about the contemporaneous feelings of the 2 Hunters Association experiments. After all, since Right Nasla and Dazuo Yin were solved by Yi Yi, the relationship between the two has changed since they were born at the same time. Bring me some more fun, Kurapika tilde. Look in the direction of Kurapika. Coincidentally, at this moment, Kurapika's eyes were also cast in the direction of Yi Yi. The eyes of the 2 men spanned a distance of 3 kilometers, as if they were looking at each other. Kurapika hides on the hillside. Put down the binoculars. Kurapika's heart beat fast, and this moment had both the influence of hatred with spiders and the influence of the murderous aura he had unleashed a few months ago. Cold sweat dripped from his temples. Kurapika didn't expect that Yi Yi would get involved with his enemy, the Phantom Troupe. Crunch tilde tilde. The telescope in his hand made an unbearable sound when he clenched it tightly, as if it was about to shatter in the next moment. Kurapika tilde. At a critical moment, a soft voice sounded from beside him. Your heartbeat seems to become anxious, even with a hint of fear, which is not in line with your character. Melody's figure came towards Kurapika. Have you encountered the prey you were hunting? This is the first time I have seen you like this. In the perception of the Melody, Kurapika's heartbeat was full of hatred and loneliness, and what was hidden in the two was a touch of hesitation. For the former, the Melody can understand, but for the latter, the Melody does not understand the reason. Pick up the flute, and a soft, soothing tune is played by the Melody. Under the influence of the tune, Kurapika's mood softened a lot. The anxious mood also calmed down. I've calmed down, Melody, please. Back to normal, Kurapika began to rearrange. Yi, that man and the phantom troop are together now, we have failed our pursuit this time, retreat. The moment he saw Yi, he knew that this goal could not be achieved. Yes, boss. Several capable people beside him heard his order and drove away one after another. It was just when they got into the car that several figures walked out from behind the crowd. The little devil of the Nasla family really only runs away. It's useless to even have the courage to play. It's really useless. Well, these few are just newcomers to Nien. It's normal to feel scared in the face of such an enemy. Yes, those guys are not ordinary thieves. If they are careless, they may be wiped out. I looked at the few people who came to my side at an unknown time. Kurapika's eyes flickered slightly. When did the yin beast come? I didn't find it at all. How could it be possible? Among his group of capable people, Kurapika is considered the strongest. But he himself did not notice the arrival of these yin beasts. The humiliation of this lack of strength once again flooded his heart. You guys should just step back. Facing an unsolvable enemy, it's better to leave it to a professional. One of the yin beasts, after leaving such a sentence, walked towards the direction of Wojin. Several other yin beasts. They also used their abilities to leave. Boss, we are. Seeing the yin beasts go away, one of the capable users asked Kurapika about the next move. It's just that Kurapika's body trembled slightly at this moment. As if fighting something. Quite a while. Stop and wait for the opportunity. There is a yin beast coming forward. Maybe we have a chance to capture a member of the brigade. Kurapika's voice returned to firmness. The able-bodied people on the side also seemed to have been given confidence by his appraisal and did not choose to escape. The other side. The spiders on the hillside looked in the direction Yaiki and Maggie pointed. In addition to the previously hidden abilities, several figures gradually emerged. Yin Beast, right, the guy you're looking for has arrived, do you need help? The knight propped his chin with one hand and sat on the ground asking. Obviously, the Phantom Brigade didn't care about the arrival of these yin beasts. No, the person I'm looking for, I'll handle it myself. Just for the kindness of the knight, Yi chose to refuse. Reiatsu turned to the number 8 cover, beside him. The two figures flew into the air. Chapter 119 Long Night. Two figures soared in the night sky. After the two left the hillside where the phantom troop was, there were bursts of noise. Apparently the fight has begun. With Reiatsu's perception, the place where Xiao was hiding was quickly found by Yaiki. Just there are nearly 10 existences of life breath. It must be other Yin Beast members who are ambushing. Su landed in a dark place. Moment. Yi's appearance disrupted the Yin Beast's ambush plan. The remaining Yin Beasts walked out of their hiding spots one after another, showing an encircling posture towards Yaiki. Hey, who are you guys and how did you find this place? The man with wings on his back suddenly asked. The other Yin Beasts were ready to attack, and Yi's answer would determine the next development of the matter. As for the knight, it's completely ignoring the Yin Beast that surrounds you. Only the shivering, number 8, was frightened by the posture of being surrounded by Yin Beasts. Old Ten has issued a commission in my organization, commissioning us to find the stolen auction items. A low, icy voice came from Yi's mouth. While walking out of the shadows, Yi Yi's face appeared in everyone's eyes. Two of the yin beasts, the moment they saw Yi Yi, their eyes changed obviously. They looked at each other for a moment, as if they had made a decision. To this, Yi Yi ignored it. Since the information leaked, the enemy's reaction has made Yi Yi somewhat used to it. It is a pity that who the information leaker is, has not yet been found. Hand over the man named Xiao Xiao, this matter has nothing to do with you. While opening, substantial murderous aura spread from Yi Yi to all around. Moment. All the siege postures of the beasts suddenly stopped. At this moment, Yi Yi seemed to be the god in charge of killing in their eyes. A sea of black and purple blood flows behind him, and countless monsters and Zerg are struggling in this sea. But, damn it, what kind of monster is this? The body could not move at all. All the yin beasts could only watch Yi Yi walking towards Owl's direction. As for the owl, this knight's goal, at this time, can only struggle to explain. Trying to persuade Yi Yi with the prestige of the 10 old man. Bastard, 10 old man asked me to transfer the auction item, let me go. Saliva could not stop flowing from the corners of his mouth. In this state, even breathing is very difficult for him. Not to mention saying so much at once. Just, do you care about this at night? My commission is to take back the auction items, and the rest has nothing to do with me. Drop this sentence. Yaiki grabbed Owl's collar, and at the same time controlled Reiatsu and flew, number 8, into the air. He needed to pick up the auction item from Owl, which was obviously not the right place. As the night fades away, the influence of killing intent is also gradually disappearing. The yin beasts were finally able to regain control of their bodies. Ha, ha. Heavy breathing came out. Under that terrifying killing intent, they almost choked to death because they couldn't breathe. Exactly, how many people were killed? Such killing intent is really terrifying. Hold out trembling hands. One of the yin beasts expressed his inner fear with a trembling voice. Fortunately his target is not us, otherwise this time is really over. The yin beast with wings on its back felt its body gradually returning to its original shape. Take a deep breath. At the moment when the killing intent was filled, he really thought he was going to die here. Yeah, thankfully his target is only Xiao Wan, but it's a pity that those auction items are gone. Recognizing Yi Yi's yin beast, he is also rejoicing at this moment. I'm glad that I and another yin beast didn't attack Yi Yi. A long time ago, the two received the task of assassinating Yi Yi from the 10 old man, but Yi Yi has never been seen, and this task has been delayed until now. Yeah, thankfully his target wasn't us. Silence for a moment. Okay, don't think about it, don't forget, our target is those thieves. Get ready, they've come here. After a few minutes. Flowers. Vehicles driven by the phantom troop pass by. The hidden beasts launched a sneak attack in an instant. Dash 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 dash. Walking on the streets of Yukishin, Yi Yi wandered around casually. After capturing Xiao, Yi Yi was about to torture him, but after seeing Yi Yi's horror, he took the initiative to hand over all the auction items. In this regard, Yi Yi contacted Boss Arthur directly, and he arranged the follow-up inspection. Mission has been completed. Yi Yi returned to a free state and continued his short vacation. As for the phantom troop who couldn't get the auction item, does this have anything to do with Yi Yi? He just fulfilled his mission. Passing by the park where they took a nap during the day, several couples of young men and women flowed in it. Obviously like it here, not just one night alone. Turn around and leave. But the moment he turned around, he seemed to notice something. There. A group of people lined up not knowing what to do. The corners of his mouth rose slightly and he walked towards the crowd. Copy blood tang can still exist for 10 hours, which is cheap for these two boys. dash 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 dash. On a small table, two figures, one tall and one short, struggle, all out to wrestle their arms, and the one who competes for the victory wins. The situation at this time has come to the most critical moment. The taller hand pressed the shorter one almost onto the table. The people around who saw this scene sighed. Feel sorry for not winning. But what happened the next moment rekindled their hopes. Oh, this little brother, he was almost able to win. Come on. It's a pity, obviously it's just a little short. I saw the short one who was about to fail. Suddenly, with a force, he took the opportunity to press the taller hand on the table and won. A familiar figure, holding a bottle and yelling loudly. If Yi hadn't known about Xiaoji's strength, he would have believed his nonsense. Son. Chapter 120 In a hotel room of Yukushin. No, it's too big for me to eat. Eat hard, don't leave this room until you finish the rest. Vomit. Looking at the three people playing tricks in front of him, Yi's poker face could hardly hold on. Obviously just eat a blood vine, but the three people just eat the smell of color. The rhizome of the blood vine that Qi Guo had cut, kept racing towards Xiaoji's mouth, forcing him to eat the rest. As a member of the family of the last blood vine winner, he also has a certain understanding of blood vines. Although before awakening, I did not understand the so-called ability improvement. But at this time, when you learn to read, you know how precious this thing is. Not only can the ability of those who are dying will meet, but also the thoughts of those who can greatly improve the ability. The blood vine, a sacred artifact that was born once in a century, would actually be encountered by him. This is so unexpected. Half an hour ago, Yi was casually walking on the streets of Yukexin, and happened to meet Xiaoji and Qiqi who set up a stall to make money. Think of the blood vine that is about to reach the upper limit of existence time. Rather than letting the blood vine replica expire, it is better to make the most of it. Xiaoji and Qi Qulu were under the guidance of Lu Yushuan. Although he wasn't a disciple, he had something to do with Yi. Giving the blood vine to the two of them, Yi didn't feel bad. With this thought, he walked towards the three of them. Therefore, the three of them ended the stall ahead of schedule. However, why is such a precious relic as blood vine given to us to eat? He swallowed the blood vine rhizome in his mouth with difficulty. Liu Li asked Yiki suspiciously. His senses about Yi were not complicated. He is also a qualified hunter test, although his performance is a little colder, but he can get along normally. The appearance of the blood vine has brought him closer to Yi. Well, Liu Li thought unilaterally. Although he didn't understand the role of blood vines at first, he also knew that this was a creature that could be encountered and unavoidable. It's really a waste to eat for the three of them. Xiaoji and Shishun on the side arrived and reacted accordingly. Although Yunjiyu acts as a bridge between several people. But in fact, the relationship between the three is not enough to hand over such a precious blood vine to Xiaoji and Kie. Both of them knew this. It's a replica, it can only exist for 24 hours, and as time passes, the replica disappears. Three curious faces. Yi Yidiao didn't mind explaining the reason. After all, it is impossible for the three of them to find Kubei's side because of this. A replica. I said something so precious. If I got it, I would definitely eat it right away. Qi Shuan realized that it was a replica, and the vigilance in his eyes slowly dissipated. He previously thought that when Yi brought the precious blood vine, he was eyeing something on him or Xiaoji. Such as the Island of Greed, memory card or something. Under the education of beating the enemy Haka, he used to think about the enemy with the worst thoughts. This is similar to Night 1. Hearing that it was a replica, he dismissed the idea. According to the information from Yungu, Yi Yishui was studying in October 1998, which is almost exactly 1 year ago, and there is no strength to snatch such a magical sacred object as blood vine. It is estimated that it is also a replica obtained from there, and the excess is given to them after eating it. According to Yungu's description, his and Xiaoji's talents are no worse than Yi's. Judging from the progress of the two of them, Yi should have only learned the 4 elements. It was obvious that the strangeness was difficult, and even if he didn't speak, Yi had already seen suspicion in his eyes. I won the blood vine, and my opponents are Shiba Dadike and Juno Dadike. The 2 names were uttered from Yi's mouth, which immediately made Chi Gfa Shi 18, Luo. As a member of the Haka family, he naturally understood the strength of his father and grandfather. After learning to read, far from changing this idea, on the contrary, it is more firmly believed. Even such a powerful father and grandfather were defeated by Yi, who took away the blood vine. This alone has proved Yi's strength. Guda tilde. Difficulty swallowing a mouthful of saliva. At this moment, Qi Jixing hangs the monster with fierce lips. At the same time that Qi Jinye was perverted, Xiaoji on the other side finally swallowed the blood vine in his mouth. As if remembering something, he suddenly ran to Yi's side. Nene tilde I remember Yi, you were also a killer, right? Looking at the big eyes of the bulling, Kazlan nodded at night to confirm. The profession of killer is not something that can't be said. Yi felt that he didn't need to hide. Yi, can you do me a favor? I want to ask you to borrow some money. Hearing the answer, a tangled look appeared on Xiaoji's face. He wants to buy the Island of Greed, which requires at least 8 billion renminbi. If he makes money according to Liu Li's method, I don't know how long it will take to earn these 8 billion renminbi. Therefore, after meeting Yi, this idea popped into his mind. But at this moment, his heart was filled with entanglement. Island of Greed, with money lent to him by others, even if he found the so-called father. At this moment, my heart was a little hesitant. I hope Yi can lend him money, and I worry that Yi will lend him money. I have money, a lot of money, but I can't lend it to you. Your eyes tell me that you don't want to ask me to lend money. Looking at Xiaoji, who was a little confused, Yi chose to refuse. Things like money, at his current level, are nothing but useless data. But even so, he was reluctant to lend the money. Whether it's to let Xiaoji experience the dangers of society, or to follow Xiaoji's own will. Yi will not lend him the money. On the side, Chu Tu Zheji Gamma also cast his gaze here. He seemed to be expecting Xiaoji's answer. Yeah, that's great. To be honest, if I borrowed money like this to buy the Island of Greed, I couldn't take it in my own heart. Touching his heart, Xiaoji's face became much more relaxed. Liu Li and Qi Yan cheered for Xiaoji's answer.